Welcome, everyone. If it's Friday evening and it's 6 p.m., you know that it's time. While politics are local, America's number one hip hop talking radio station. I am Zaid Muhammad. I'm here with co founder and lead principal producer Jonathan Alston, and we're going to
Hey,
take you through a powerful night of meaningful conversation, all couched and appreciated in the language, space, and time and equation that is the land of hip hop. Right? The running show is as follows: if it's the first Friday, it's the Payne Report, and even in the aftermath of the passing of our beloved friend and colleague and neighbor in the late Donald Payne Jr., we continue the Payne Report with his cousin Eric Payne and with special guests, and as we figure out how to remap that in the incoming season of a whole fresh slate of leadership on that particular front.
I'm
With a
here. Hey,
particular
brothers, how you doing?
how you doing, brother Eric? With a particular shout out to
Rahman.
the successor, uh, Monica McIver, who was just installed in his space. He's being That's Eric Payne joining us now. And
Hey,
also Big Rock, Rahaman Muhammad, Deputy Mayor, and lead entrepreneur of his a great space and eatery now, right in the heart of Newark, who's going to be a part of this special conversation. Just after that, we have a unsung cover of the Black Panther Party, Leila Wills, who is the director of the uh, landmarking project called Landmarking the Illinois Chapter of the Black Panther Party. Folks may not realize that the Illinois chapter was always associated with Chicago, but it was more than that. It was the largest chapter in the Black Panther Party or in the party's history. Most folks do not realize that. It did more than produce the great Fred Hampton. It produced a whole lot of work and a whole lot of resources that kept the party afloat over a number of years. And after that, Antoine Henshaw from New Jersey Prison Watch will talk about the continued battle to get New Jersey in check around the abuse of something called solitary confinement. And in the end, of course, we wrap up with DJ Rhino and all things updating what's happening in the land of hip hop. So it's a loaded show. Welcome, everybody. Right? Let's get into it. Let's get into it. Let's get into it. Jonathan, you want to bring in our guest, Deputy Mayor Rahman Muhammad?
yes. So,
Get into with Brother Rahman.
yeah. Sorry, I was having some technical difficulties. Lost my earpiece, but the Payne Report was always like just meant a lot to us, and what we decided to do was until election day, we are going to be talking about the election. We're going to be talking about what's going on because we know that from our conversations that this election, Congressman Donald Payne thought was one of the most important elections ever, right? And he was very much a person who was like, this has to be gotten right. So we've been doing updates. We've been having guests on to have conversations about this, and we are honored to have Eric Payne on. We were also honored to have Rahman Muhammad on as well. He just stepped out, but we are honored to have him on to talk about this as well. So when talking about the election and the stuff coming up and this week, right? What are some of your thoughts on what's going on? And especially, like one of the things with that happened this week was this October surprise labor dispute, right? And so we want to get into that too. So welcome to All Politics Are Local. Welcome to having a lively conversation about what's going on in this race right now. What's at stake? What is it that we need to do? Welcome.
Yes, sir.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
we
sir.
can hear you well.
I'm sorry, man. My internet had dropped, so if it drops again, I'm gonna use my phone. I'm in my store, so in my office I built, so I don't know if it's the walls or whatever, but
No, it might be that.
Up,
It
Eric,
might be
man,
that
my brother Eric, what's good with you?
How you doing, my brother? How you
I
been?
see you in a minute. Hey, what's up,
it
John?
might be that brisket smoking, Rock.
Hey, man, it could be that too. But sometimes my wife, she always moving stuff around, so she probably, what I'm saying, disconnected it by accident.
If you and everybody just being transparent, forgive the commercial because it's a commercial free space. But if Big Rocks gives you some big, fat, juicy, I'm gonna call them new school style deli sandwiches.
Oh my gosh! Yes,
in a very Newark tradition way. Big
it's crazy because everybody keep trying to compare me to people. And I'm like, folks, I'm trying to create my own lane.
Yeah.
I respect everybody in the business, man. It's 8 million people live in Jersey. I just want to feed some of them.
Well, you got great food. I've tried those sandwiches multiple times.
Sir.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, I appreciate
it. But you've done many things, right? Like store owner, like wonderful deli. That's just I don't want to compare it to anybody, but I think it's the best in New Jersey, right?
Yeah,
like in terms of the sandwiches you make, the pastrami, all the other stuff. Deputy Mayor, you do a lot of stuff in terms of employment, getting people employed. But in your previous life, you were a union leader, right?
Yes.
And you were president of the local SEIU, and you also were involved at the very beginning of this administration in dealing with getting Newarkers jobs at the ports.
Yes.
So when the ports jumped off this week, and the stuff at the ports jumped off this week, I thought, we need to have a conversation, right?
Yes.
What went on? And this morning to find out that it's been dealt with, break it down. We thought that there was going to be a shutdown of the ports all over the north, all over the East Coast. We thought that, within a week, all of the different suppliers, there'll be shortage in stores. I went to the store on Monday.
Prices
just
skyrocket. Oh, hell yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I was like, what's going on? Why are there so many people here on a Monday? There's supposed to be no one here on a Monday. But it was like, it's about to jump off, right?
Yeah.
What happened?
I think the union is standing up for their rights and they fighting for their members. I don't think there was no conspiracy to what's going on. It's a union who see a perfect time to, stand up for their members. It's before the election, it's right before the holidays. This is the time. I mean, my understanding is the shippers made 800% profit last year. I mean, to not ask for your fair share is just crazy.
Say that amount again. The
shipping companies made 800% profit last year. 800%. So, I mean, whatever they're giving these workers is well due. I mean, a carpenter makes $80 an hour. Why do we care that a port worker makes $63? You know what I'm saying? Electrician makes $80 an hour. Why do we care that a port worker makes $63? In addition to the fact is that a lot of their jobs is being automated. You know what I'm saying? So they're losing. I mean, look at Long Beach. I think Long Beach they lost like thousands of jobs getting their port and they got people in different countries that use computer screens to monitor the automation that's going on in the port while Americans is out of jobs. I mean, listen, the union has the right to stand up for the members. If it was me, I'd have been shut them down. I mean, I don't, you know what I'm saying? I wouldn't let them get this far. I mean, you talking about and listen, automation is going to happen. I just think that there should be a process and they should think about these workers and the impact on these workers and how they can retool and retrain them, not to just keep on replacing them. I mean, the longshoremen union at one time, you got to remember, ships used to be packed by hand. They used to be unpacked by hand. So you had hundreds of thousands of people that worked on the port because you literally had to carry box by box through your hands. I mean, through the years, through cranes and containers and all that other stuff, I mean, it shrunk the workforce, but now their workforce is being even threatened more with this automation where the trailer moves on its own, the crane picks it up on its own, and there's somebody behind a computer screen working. I mean, that's just not fair to workers. And I think everybody should be fighting for their job, not to be taken over by robots. I mean, how are we going to live in this country if we have a bunch of robots taking our jobs. So listen, I think they did stand up. Their increase was well due. They're going back in negotiations about this automation, and I hope they get some real good results based on that. And if they don't, they should strike again.
Right. And so, and that's what I wanted to hear in terms of what was going on. And the second question along those lines, I know that when in Newark, there was a push very at the beginning of the Barack administration to get Black people from Newark, local people, to be able to work at these docks because, the union was very segregated, and to the point where I believe there were even almost like segregated unions or segregated working. You can correct me on that,
hey, listen,
right? Like,
I'll let the members decide on rather segregated. I mean, but I think you can see visibly that the port and those unions need to be more integrated with more minorities up in them. I mean, just based on the strike, if you'd have went down the port, we need to get more minorities. We need more North residents on that port. I mean, how do we have this port in our backyard, and they're paying all these great jobs, and we don't have an influx of
all this revenue? That's right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the mayor was right from the beginning, and I think we should listen. We've gotten a lot of people on the port, and so the shipping association, even the union, has welcomed it. And listen, I hope it grows, and I hope they'll welcome even more.
Yeah, I mean,
but that has to do with their contract because, listen, at the end of the day, workers got a right to fight for their contract, and whoever's working, they want to raise, and they want to make sure that their job is not outsourced to a machine. And you're displacing the work and the family from providing for their well-being because you want to automate everything. You just want 800% profit is not enough. Like this is the most ridiculous thing about business that bought 800% profit, folks. That's just not enough. That's crazy. That's crazy.
And what kind of figure can you put on what that actually means in real time? It's astronomical.
Yes, I can't even copy. I mean, listen, I'm trying to get double profit at my deli. I ain't nowhere near that. I'm not profitable yet, but even if we get there, heck, I'll probably do max about 10-15% profit. These people 800% profit. 800%. Like, come on.
And don't want to give folks a raise. And
you want to take their jobs. Now I can see if you wasn't profitable and you needed to create these machines because they were taking so much. If you're making 800% profit, then there's no reason for you to want to replace a worker other than greed.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
And so it suggests that our system, the system of capitalism, right, that we run on in America, get all you can get. But to me, kind of, maybe people can call it what they want. Some people are probably going to call it socialism capitalism or maybe community capitalism. But there is, like Rock said, how much money can you make? There's a line in that old movie Wall Street where Charlie Sheen says to Michael Douglas's character, how many yachts can you water ski behind? How many airplanes do you need? It becomes a point when if you're making money, why not share it? Why not make sure everybody eats? That's what I'm talking about. Kind of a community-based capitalism or community-minded, responsible capitalism. When you have people having these companies where they're allowing the workers to share in pension and profit-sharing programs, that's the type of mentality we need. But see, the capitalist system, that works against that, right? That whole mentality of sharing the wealth, that flies in the face of the capitalism, right? Because it's based on let's get as much as we can get for as little as we can get. Because Rock, I'm sure you guys probably heard it. They eventually probably want to make it all automated down at the port, right? I mean,
clearly, look along. You don't have to take my word for it. You can go do your research on Long Beach, California yourself and see that the port is automated. The entire port is automated. Wow. I think somebody told me they got like 5 people that work the port. You know what I'm saying? It's like the entire thing is automated. I mean, what union person could sit there and listen? And I'm gonna say it again: automation is coming, but to me, is at what degree? Automation to me should be able to help the worker, not replace them. The problem what I'm having is they're using automation to replace workers. Why can't we use automation to make the job easier for workers?
And there's a powerful historic precedent for that, right? You know, once upon a time, we were free labor in this country. And with the invention of a machine, an automated monster called the cotton gin, right? Cotton became king in the colonial capitalist economy like nothing else. Now, we're not talking about trying to reinvent, you know, plantation economics, but to your point, technology should amplify capacity.
Yes.
Right? Not denigrate and destroy capacity. It should amplify production. And the production what's generated in terms of wealth from that production should be distributed in a way that reflects everything that has gone into the making of that production happen.
Right.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
But when you have a society that was developed or grew over centuries based on the exploitation of people, based on the murder of people, based on the stealing of people's land and murdering them, and then the mentality that we can have whatever we want throughout the rest of the world. Either we will offer help or we will offer, annihilation. You know, when you come from that perspective, then everything else that they do along those lines is not all that surprising, right? It's not all that surprising that these individuals that are talking about that they're sitting up there making 800% profit margin have no problem whatsoever with thinking about the workers on the docks who take the opportunity, who take the chances, because I'm sure it's not the safest job. Of course, there's safety regulations in line, but it's manual labor and accidents can happen, right? So we're talking about people who actually move the products or helping to move the products or supporting the machines, right? Because when the automation breaks down, you need to have the actual human beings to help fix the machine. So, and then to prepare these machines to take their jobs. So the individuals, their perspective is all about, at the bottom line, profit.
So the strike, so it seems like the strike was, we need to get paid now, right? We need to get paid now because we don't know what's going to come later. You got 800% profit. Apparently they hadn't gotten raises in a while. People like COVID, we poor, no one shipping, right? And so because a lot of people didn't understand the reasons for the strike, right? Like in terms of people are like, wait, they already get paid a lot of money. Why do they want more, right?
But you know what? You know the thing about it, John. Not to cut. I'm sorry that I cut you off. The problem with the whole notion behind that they get paid, they do. But the reality is, a lot of it is made through overtime, and that's what's not being said. You know what I'm saying? So when you look at wage of about $39 an hour, you're talking about 80, 85,000. Now that's a lot of money. I'm not saying that's not a lot of money, but the way they make really the money that they're making is because they have to do so much overtime because they're unloading these ships.
And that's never talked about, right?
Right.
Never talked about that aspect.
You got people in the longshoremen that will tell you, listen, yes, I make a good living, I make a lot of money, but I work so much I can't enjoy it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I'm saying? The deal is like these individuals work a lot of overtime. They put a lot of time in from when that ship come in, because once you get to work, you have to stay there until that ship is unloaded. And it might take days for that ship to be unloaded. And they only
really?
I'm telling you that. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And they only got a finite amount of longshoremen. So you have to keep the ones on, you know what I'm saying, to unload the ship, to make sure that this ship is getting unloaded. So yes, they make a lot of money, but a lot of it is through overtime. I can guarantee you probably about 50% of their pay is through overtime. They spend a lot of hours on that port.
So when you're like making $100,000, $200,000 a year, that's like not their base salary.
No.
And it's just strictly through the overtime stuff.
Yes.
And they're like, you made 800% profit. And in order for me to make some money, I literally have to work half my life.
Right.
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 So
I had a guy that we sent down longshoreman who quit because he said, Rock, yes, the pay was good. I made a lot of money, but I got to be honest with you, I had no life. And, you know what I'm saying? I just couldn't do it. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, and I was like, dude, you work? He's like, bro, I'm telling you, man, I'm working 24 hours shift, sometimes 30-hour shift. Like, you have to stay there until this job is complete. And yes, they get paid a lot of overtime. The checks look good. They get their royalties at the end of the year. But a lot of them say, listen, I got dudes that got nice cars who wind up turning them in because they say, heck, I can't even drive it. I can't even drive it.
Wow.
And
wow.
the move is to strike them, right? I mean, the market drives what they do. They see the market, they see everybody else getting paid. So that's a genius move. It's like, we're going to slow down right now. Since everybody else is getting theirs, we need to get ours. And what better time to do that, to coordinate that than, you know, hey, listen, my little union, Screen Actors Guild, was on strike for 7-8 months or whatever, you know, and
y'all did what y'all had to do.
True.
But nobody cares at the end of the day whether we, you know, we're not moving goods that supply the country, you know, and the rest of the thing. I mean, you distract people for a while, but nobody really, I mean, not to denigrate or just disrespect my industry, but we ain't making, you know, we ain't curing cancer and we're not feeding the country. So like the brothers that are working on the port down there that are unloading that, or like the American farmers, or, you know, a lot of the other countless jobs that people do where they bust their ass as union workers and non-paid union workers and really make this country move.
And to that end, I wake up this morning and I look at the paper and I'm like, yo, it's over? Like, what happened? Like, you know, can you break this down for me? Like, it seemed like Biden was like, we're sending people to talk, and what happened? Like,
you know, the president could have went and put in, I think he could have forced them to go back to work. I think it was 80 days. He could have pushed the strike aside, right?
With Taft-Hartley. That's what Taft-Hartley.
Yeah, and I think that he didn't want to do that, right? And so he went to the shippers and said, listen, you made this profit. At minimum, you need to negotiate the wages for them and then come back to the table and talk about automation. So they've suspended the strike. They didn't stop the strike. They suspended the strike until they go back to the
clarification.
Hello?
Yeah, no, he froze. That's an important. He froze. That's an important clarification. And the issue that's still sticking, and he'll break this down better than I will. The issue that's still sticking is the question of how they're going to deal with the implementation of the automation, at the same time do justice to the workers.
And Rock, you froze for like the last 30 seconds.
I was saying that, you know, the deal is Biden probably said, listen, you know, you got the money, you know, pay them, you know what I'm saying, the wages, and then come back to the table and, you know, talk about negotiating this automation. They have to do something about the automation. If they don't do something, don't matter what they make. You can pay them $150 an hour. But if you go from 60,000 longshoremen to 40,000 to 40,000 to 30,000, from 30,000 to 20,000 to 20, like, it don't matter at that point, right? And so at some point they have to do something about the automation. They have to get down here and negotiate some process with them. You know, I think they know some form of automation is coming. I think what they're trying to stop is the complete shutdown of their job, and they got every right to want to do that. And I would be definitely supportive of, you know what I'm saying, that happen. If I was the union president, I swear I would fight for. I mean, I'm just for me as the union person.
Yeah.
What in Long Beach? Were you exaggerating when you said there are 5 people working? Like was that like?
I'm telling you right now, look at Long Beach Port, brother. The whole port is automated.
I've heard that too. I used to live in Cali. I've heard that too.
You literally see the cars, the cranes running by themselves, the trucks running by themselves, the robots just like literally the whole port. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if it's 5, but it's not many, you know what I'm saying, workers on that port. And, you know, they automated, the entire port is automated. From the crane taking it off to the trailer, like you literally see a trailer ride by itself to pick up the trailer to hitch to a truck. And then the person drive truck down. The team is working because they still got to drive the trucks. You know what I'm saying? But the ILA members is losing their jobs because you got this trailer that can now, based on the grid that they created at Long Beach, whatever the grid is, it now knows where to stop, get the container, back it up on the truck. The truck driver log it up, and then he ride off. And there's no human being other than the truck driver and the people behind the computer screens that's operating stuff.
And within 10 years, the trucks will be replaced too.
Yes. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to be honest with you, Jonathan. I don't see a country that's going to allow a truck that has 70,000 pound truck on. I mean, if we go in that direction, something's really wrong. I would not trust a truck down the street with an automated driver. You know what I'm saying? This tractor trailer has a lot of weight to it. It's carrying fuel. It's carrying chemicals. It's carrying all types of stuff. I mean, to go automated on that level where that thing is riding down the street by itself, and you depending on some computer or some camera to stop it, and I mean, dude, if we come that far, like, the
argument that's being made for trucks and stuff like that is that there's so much human error with truck drivers in terms of being tired, human error as being the main cause of accidents. I kind of probably see that almost definitely happening, only in that they're making the argument that human error is the cause of accidents, right? It's not the computer glitch. Computers are reliable. Computers are more reliable human beings. They're going to go the speed limit all the time or below the speed limit all the time. They're going to take, they're going to take every precaution. They're not going to be, trying to rush and get stuff. They don't have to eat. They don't have to go to the bathroom. They just need to fill up, right? They don't have emotional problems or issues to deal with that distract them from their driving. Of all the automation, I think that trucking is the holy grail. They're trying to get fast, right? I think they're really trying to replace truckers.
I've seen a program where they actually had that, but they had the driver riding with the truck as a fail-safe in case something happened, but for the most part, the truck was programmed to drive and the driver was there in case of emergency. So, but yeah, they definitely want, like I said, these big corporations, man, they don't want any overhead. They want an oil profit. So, and I fully believe that that's what their eventual, if they can have it like that. I mean,
the problem though is who's going to buy the products? Like, I mean, if you automate everything and you take all these people out of the work, you take them off the grid, then who buys the products? Who buys the cars? Who buys the TVs? Who buys the radios? Who buys the clothes? I mean, at some point, there has to be some realization through corporate greed that, the more you take people out of work and take them out the workforce, the less customer base that we have. I don't understand why you want to shrink the customer base.
Right.
That's what we mean about something being not sustainable.
Yeah, that's not sustainable. Right. And eventually, the problem though with that, Zaid, is eventually people are going to rise up against that.
Yeah.
Like that to me is when you get to the point where the destruction of a country's foundation is being threatened, because if people aren't working and they have nothing, you unemploying all these people, at some point, those people are going to rise up. You know what I'm saying? And say, wait a minute, this is, you don't wait, you took the bar way too far, and we don't have anything, and we just got to take it all now. Or if we can't have them, then we got to destroy it. You know what I'm saying? So I just think it's a danger in that. I mean, we can't just, the problem is that a lot of this corporate America believe that we can just go into a service economy. And that has been the like manufacturing and building things and like that. They believe, well, yeah, all of those things can be automated. But by the way, you're not going to, but they even automating the McDonald's jobs now. They fast food, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I was at a restaurant in Atlanta, a robot came and brought me my plate. I'm telling you, you know what I'm saying? The person came and took my order, and me and my daughter sat at the table. That thing, I know, this little robot with a tray came to the table and with the tray. I'm like, wait, at some point, they started to automate service jobs.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's interesting because, a lot of stuff that I've been reading about, like, and stuff that we've been debating about in the last like 5 years, has been that billionaires are advocating for minimum basic income, right?
Right.
And they're advocating for that because they're like, hey, automation is going to take over, and we're not going to need 80% of the workforce in 20 years. 80% of the workforce ain't going to be needed. And we want to try to keep them from rising up. So let's try out this, like, you know, minimum basic income, minimum guaranteed income for people, right? If we can do that for folks, then maybe they'll be placated. We'll have a consumer base. They'll buy stuff, and they won't riot.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you know,
managed.
and it's either that or they're going to try to kill us all, which brings us to the election, right? When it comes to labor and the election and the future, I'm trying to figure out why are so many people who know better supporting Trump? Right?
Brother, you know, listen,
You
brother,
know why.
you can answer that question, brother. I mean,
You know why.
nobody
You know
said
why the third segment.
Yeah, I think that the foundation of the base vote of Trump is the fact that, you know, there's just a lot of racism out there in middle country. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. I don't care what they say. Listen, I've dealt with, as a union person, you know what I'm saying? I've dealt with these people. I already know, you know what I'm saying, who they support. There's no reason why you vote against your own interests. There's no reason why this guy stands up you, who's a billionaire, who doesn't, you know, live. He doesn't live the so-called moral standard that you have. None of this stuff that you claim that you support, this guy actually follows or actually represents, but yet and still, like, no, it's because of the things he say about minorities and how he attack them. The question I have is why black folk, or black men in particular, and the reality of this to me is that what I've come to believe when it comes to the black male vote, because I know there's some black women, but majority of black women supporting Kamala Harris. I'm telling you that right now. I keep telling people you're gonna see black women voting like you ain't never seen them voting before in their life. Come this presidential. But black men is different, and there we have to have an honest discussion in the Democratic Party about black men, right? Because I don't see anything. I'm in the Democratic Party because I'm just a political person, and you know what I'm saying. I think that the party platform, I lean more independence, but I'm part of the Democratic Party because I do think that the platform gives us a little something. But I got to be real with you when it comes to black men. I don't know what the agenda for black men in the Democratic Party is. And I think because of that, a lot of black men view that as, listen, man, I'm not represented there. They really not talking about me. What are they talking about in the agenda? That I got to put my business, I got to put 51% of my business in my wife's name to qualify for a loan. Meaning she gets the loan as a minority woman quicker than me as a minority man. So 51%, I'm told you need to put 51% in your wife's name. 51% of the business should go into your wife's name so that y'all can access loans. What type of crap is that?
Yo, that's a real thing in terms of
my counterpart don't have to do that.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? What type of foolishness is that the black man has to put 51% of the white guy, the white family, he got businesses in the daughter name, the wife name, and in his name. You know what I'm saying? So he can get the minority contracts, he put them in his daughter and in his wife's name. But with me, to get a loan for a bank to take me serious, or for one of these grants that the state is giving, that the feds is giving, what they telling me is it's best if you put 51% in your wife's name, because your chances of getting that loan is much better. Now, I don't understand it.
You left over because of the black woman, because when they do the whole kind of minority hiring, that was initiated, what are we talking about, 20, whatever, how many years ago, initially, that was supposed to meant to help the hiring of men that were in the workplace, black men getting hired, but they said the strongest minority at the time was the black woman. So that's like, what are we talking about, the 80s? I mean, y'all would have to help me out here, but that's when kind of that thing started, where in terms of trying to address the lack of minority company ownership, right? And say we're going to have a program that favors minorities. They could just check the one box and just give it to the sister, and the brother gets dissed. Or if they couldn't find any sisters, give it to a white woman who would be the minority,
Right.
which is the minority
Right.
box for them.
Right.
You know, so
But
I
the
think
problem is that as a black male, where does that leave you? Right.
Right.
And so when you look at the platform, if I'm part of the LGBT community, it speaks to me. If I'm an immigrant, the platform speaks to me. If I'm a female, it speaks to me. If I'm a black woman, it speaks to me. But what does it speak to me as a black male? And so I can see why.
And you found that, and you even found that, like, because you are very much a part of the Democratic Party, right? Like,
Yes.
you went to the convention, all that stuff.
Well, I didn't go to the convention
then,
this year. I've been to the rest, but this year I didn't go.
Okay, but even with all that, right?
Yeah.
And with what you know, who you are, you're like, it doesn't speak to me. What could it, like, because it just leaves you out by negligence, by like what is the process by which you, like, there are federal programs that are literally created without you in mind?
Well, I don't, the deal is, seems to me like when it comes to the black man, the only thing we want to talk about is formerly incarcerated men. Right. And like when I listen to the Van Jones of the world and the rest of them, like sometimes I want to reach through the screen and like choke them because they believe like the only thing that you can even hear Trump talking about it. He's even adopting the thing. Oh, I worked with Van Jones and, freed some. I think that should be a part of it, but I don't think that should be the whole thing. Yes, there's some things that we need to do for the justice system, but all of us are not part of the criminal justice system. And the problem is that it seems like when it comes to black men, the only thing that the Democratic Party promotes as something that we do is when it comes to the criminal justice reform. No, I need more than that. I have a family. I have a home. I want to raise my kids. I want to create a business for them. I want to get loans. I want to be part of the American dream, not just my wife. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to be a part of that. And so, like, it's like to me, and that's not to say that the Republicans speak to us. I want to be clear about that because I don't think they speak to us.
Like the other guys,
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying that I think Donald Trump and the speaker. The deal is that we become attracted because like we like this rich guy who's beating the system. The system ain't working for us, and we like him because the system ain't working for us. So we want this guy because he's fighting the system. Or he say he's fighting the system. He's not fighting the system. He's using the system for his own personal greed and his own personal benefit. But he's put it out there enough to make you believe that, the system fighting. So he releases the Lil Waynes of the world. He gives them the Kodak Blacks of the world. He gives parts of all of these folks, and then you got these black men.
You don't know any better. Remember what Malcolm said about celebrities and politics and things like that.
Right, and so he gives them this, and then we say, he's for us. No, he's not for us. I want that loan. I want to be able to go to the bank without giving my wife 51% of my business and being able to apply for a loan and get a loan to open my business. That's what I want to be able to do. There are single black men out here. You know what I'm saying? They have to get married to get, businesses? Like at some point, we need to have the same opportunities as the American dream. We need to have the same chances as our white counterpart, the white men. And listen, it's crazy because one of my best friends is a white male. He owned a car lot. And I look at my business and I look at his business. Me and my wife laugh about this all the time. He gets so many breaks and stuff when it comes to his business. Like sometimes he be on the line. I be like, dude, like, he be like, don't worry about it. I ain't worried about that. Nothing never happens. But when it comes to me, it seems like everything is just pressured down on us when it comes down to the business. We gotta dot our I's and cross our T's, and I can't get none of those breaks that my brother over here gets.
That Eddie Murphy skit back in the day when he was white and he was getting everything for free. Remember that?
Right.
So and did you realize the extent to which I was gonna say, did you realize the extent to which that level of inequality like hit before you started doing your own business stuff? Like, did you recognize because I mean you as deputy mayor, you deal with employment issues all the time, right? You deal with economic well-being issues all the time, right?
Right.
Did you recognize what was the owning of your own business like a new revelation? Like, does it hit you?
No. Listen, I've been friends with this guy for about 20 years now, right? And I've recognized like the inequalities based on the thing. I'm like this. I mean, if I tell you the violations and things, suspensions and stuff that he's had or whatever, I always say to him, because I always joke to him and say, dude, if that was a black guy, we'd be out of business. If that was a black man, wouldn't, you know what I'm saying, wouldn't be in existence. They would never let us get away with what you're now, you know what I'm saying, getting away with, right? And so, I mean, it's like, when it comes to us, there is, after me getting a business, I have to go I got to go different ways of getting money than he has to go to. He right now trying to convince me to open up a big, because he done moved out to, my God, Tom's River. He bought a house out of Tom's River. And he was like, Rock, they got this nice spot. Oh, let's open the big rocks out here. I said, listen, we make a killing out there. So he showed me the place, and he was doing the thing. And he said to me, he said, and I said, yo, that space is going to be too much money, man. I'm not going to hand. He said, you know what? Years ago, you know what my father said to me when I bought my business, and I told him, Dad, I don't think, he said, look at your pants. Do you got a set of balls? Well, then don't worry about it. I said, yeah, but your balls are different color than mine.
Wow.
you know what I'm saying?
Which means you don't really need them all. You don't need them that big because they get easy street.
I'm like, yo, I said it's easy for your dad to say, y'all balls are different color than mine. You know what I'm saying? It's not that I'm not saying that it can't be achieved, and I'm sure with you, I probably can get the loan. But the point that I'm trying to make to you, like, we look at things differently because we know the difficulty there is for us
being treated differently.
Right. Than it is for you to achieve. Now, yeah, you could probably go out here and take the risk to buy this property, spend all this money, put $1.5 million in it, renovate, do all this stuff, and you don't care how the money is going to come or how the loan is getting paid. As a brother, though, we can't do that. We can't do that.
So really what you're saying,
and the way the system has that structure situated and continues to perpetuate it, as far as they're concerned, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. Exactly. Right.
Exactly. And so really what you're getting at, right? Like, because, Harris is like, I have a problem with men in general and black men in particular, right? And they've been saying that recently. We got problems with men in general and black men in particular. And what you're saying is that if she's going to do something to excite, like, black men specifically, it seems like she would have to have an economic program that's not generic, but that is specifically like, hey, she'd have to come out and say, hey, here's a specific economic plan for black men that has to do with small business loans and small business mentoring, and here are the hurdles that we know happen, and here's what we're doing. And it has to be something that's specific and targeted, because if it's generic, we know we kind of already know we're not going to be included, right? Because it seems like that these programs that exist, but somehow, right, like, because somehow, we're not included to the point of, like, your wife has to get 51%, right? Like, it's
John,
probably not a specific.
To put it in 51%, John, the bank. When I went to go open the account at the bank, I need you to understand, this is how deep it is. Because the businesses, I started Big Rocks when my wife was at the military. She was away for almost 2.5 years overseas. So I started Big Rocks when my wife was away. I registered it. I bought the trailer. I had it built. I did all. By the time she came back, everything was done. So I never, on that business, I didn't have her name. When we started this, I put her name up. But when I went to the bank to open up the account, it was the guy in the bank that said, hey, you need to put your wife as 51% owner because you'll qualify for more loans with your wife being 51% owner. And I'm looking at him like, but we partners, we 50-50 in this marriage. You know what I'm saying? But she had to be majority owner for you to qualify for loan. Like, that's just, to me, like, who set that system up, Zaid? Like you said, it's beneficial to them. I can guarantee you my white friend has never said to me, because he's been married and divorced a few times.
Oh, wow.
You know what I'm saying? He had one time come to me and said, when I went to the bank to open an account, they told me I had to put 51% in my wife's name. Not one time did he say that. His bank, matter of fact, his business is in his name. When he got a divorce, he maintained his business because it was in his name. You know what I'm saying? But with me, the bank guy is saying, dude, I'm suggesting to you that, I mean, just me and my wife got a good relationship, and I'm not really worried about that. But the reality of the matter is, though, like, she's 51% owner. If she was an idiot, an a-hole about it, if it came down to it and we did get a divorce, right, she would have the deciding factor of what to do with the business.
That's right.
Or if you weren't married, right? Like, say if you were a single man, right? Or a widow or whatever, right? Like, then it's like you don't have access based on you being a black man. Wow.
Which is crazy.
That's interesting. That's like one of those new realizations that you don't even know is a realization on that level, right? Like on that systemic level of, no, they just told me straight up, nah, right? And so is that what you would recommend to Harris in this final push? Like, if she has not done anything specifically talking to black men, then she got to, it is what it is.
Listen, I think Bakari Sellers is the only one that I've heard make the statement that you've done nothing for black men. I think Bakari, what is the platform for black men in the Democratic Party? I think he's the only one I've heard push that logic to people. And it seems like every time he says it, people ignore him. And I think, because I've been saying this for a while, when people calling me and I'm like, I'm not surprised that black men run to Trump, because I don't know what the Democratic Party offers to black men. And it just was shocking to hear Bakari Sellers was saying the same exact thing that I was saying. I do believe that we have to get out of this notion that black men are only in the criminal justice system, and that is the only way that the federal government can lend us assistance. I think that we have to have a broader economic discussion on how it is that we can help black men maintain the same. Listen, even if you don't want to make it special for me, I want to have equal rights of being able to apply for loans if my credit is good, if my business rating is good, to be able to get the same loan that my white friend is able to get when he go and get a loan. I want those same rights. I want those same rights. And the problem is, like, we should have a discussion around making sure that we have the same rights, so that I don't have to turn around here and sit in the business with me and my wife at the bank, and they saying, well, no, you need to turn over 51% to her and you only own 49%. Like, that's craziness.
But
and then you wonder why the black man in the family structure is sometimes looked at to be less. My wife, I don't worry about that with my wife. You know what I'm saying? But you worry about why the black man sometimes looked at less in the family structure. If he always got to turn around and give credit to just what his wife, he got to always to his wife, then what's the point?
That's historical, right? That's historical.
Like, more powerful.
That's historical in our situation in this country throughout centuries now, unfortunately. I'm just wondering, right? We look at it and brothers say that, and there's a lot of brothers, like you said, they're wondering what the Democratic Party, but I'm wondering that the opposite is true, right? What is the Republican Party? What is this part? You know what I'm saying? What is the Republican Party to say? What is the Democrat Party? Because that has done for you black men. Surely not the Republican Party hasn't done anything. So to me, the discussion has to be more exactly along the lines of what Brock was saying, is that the party has to take into account that black men have supported the party, and that this system that was created when they were Jerry Reagan were messing around with something called affirmative action, and to say, we're going to take care of you black people, black men, that you're not getting the same opportunities because we're coming from a society that is a misogynistic society, first off, right? White male, a patriarchal society. Then when men are supposed to be equal, meaning that the black man is supposed to be equal, but the ones who got a lot of tricks, they're going to say, okay, we're going to make it for you minorities to be equal. And what kind of minority? Then they start rating the minorities. That's what the point I was trying to make before. They start rating the level of minorities. And that's when they say, okay, a woman is a minority, black is minority, men are supposed to be on the same level than the women are second-class citizens. So we get caught up in that game where they say, okay, well, you're a minority too, but you're a man, right? Okay, so who's even a bigger minority, I guess, playing the minority game, right, than you? A woman, okay? So who's even a bigger minority than, say, what would be just a white woman, a black woman? So that those mental gymnastics that have to be played, because they set up a system that causes us to have to go through those changes to get equality in the first place. And so understanding that is where I think the Democratic Party, if, you guys have heard me say the Democratic Party is a bunch of punk asses anyway. We let too much fly. We don't address the things we need to address. But something like that needs to be addressed and talked about and say, hey, we understand that this is an issue. We're not reaching men. We're not reaching Black men. So besides the fact that I think a lot of people are not feeling the fact that she used to be a prosecutor as well, I think that affects some of her unfavorability in certain segments of the Black male community and the Black community, period. Anybody who works for the criminal justice system. But to me, it's just a part of this whole bigger kind of matrix that they designed, that every time we're able to learn the rules of the game, there's another loophole in there that they built into the system to pull the rug out from underneath us.
Yeah, I just think that the party has to understand that Black men, there are things that we want, right? We don't want to be replaced by our spouses or our women, right? And I just think that even when it comes to elected positions, right? I see white guys that position, but they don't replace it with a woman. But when it comes to us, it's automatically we replace, we're replacing Black men. We want the same opportunities, right? I mean, we want our voice to be heard in the platform, right? We don't want to just have a conversation about criminal justice reform. I just think that those who are caught up into her being a prosecutor, that's their thing. I'm not caught. I think there are some people that should be prosecuted. I'm sorry. Right. I want law and order. You know what I'm saying? In this country, I'm not one of the people that want to live in a society that there's disorder. I believe in the police. I'm sorry. I don't think
they don't assume that there's a lot of brothers that have opinions like that. So
I don't think every cop is a problem. You know what I'm saying? I just don't believe that. You know what I'm saying? I want to own a home. I want to be a property owner. I want to own land. You know what I'm saying? I just think that the conversation has to be more when it comes to Black men. We generally become more in an entrepreneur spirit than wanting to work for people. Black men naturally would rather own and be their own bosses naturally, right? The problem is that the reason why we become workers is because we have less access to become our own boss. You know what I'm saying? Unless we're in the right place or we become some millionaire because we did some rap or whatever and we got money to create things. The reality of the matter is the ground level guy like me who works his way up from the maintenance man, who come out the street, works his way from the maintenance man to where he at. I don't have the same access. It took me, I'm 56 years old now, and I'm just opening up a business, folks. I wanted to open up a business when I was in my 20s, but I didn't have access to have the ability to be able to own that. Whereas though the same friend I'm telling you about opened up a car lot in his 20s. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? He opened up a car lot in his 20s. So they have more access and to be able to do things that we don't have that same access. And so we become the workers. We become the consumers instead of becoming the owners and the producers. And the reality of the matter is that we're smart enough to be producers. We're smart enough to be owners, but we're not given the same opportunities to do that. And if they create a conversation around that, I promise you their Black men problem will go away. And if they add that in the discussion with criminal justice reform, and you'll get more Black men to say, you know what, I'm with you.
Right.
You know
and it's interesting. I was going to say it's interesting because it does seem like that has been a huge push of yours personally since you became deputy mayor, when you've been pushing vocational programs, you've been pushing lots of different ways for people to become, and professions where Black men could become trained to be individually employed, right? Because I think there was like, if a Black man owns a business, most likely it's going to be a pickup truck involved, right? Like it's going to be some skill involved. He's going to own his own company that deals with electrician, plumbing, contracting, right? Things where he is literally his own boss based on the skill set that he has created, right? And will make 6 figures, 7 figures, owning your own. I mean, you could become rather well off, right? Owning your own business, utilizing those skills, training other people and utilizing those skills for projects, et cetera, right? Like it opens up an entire world.
Jonathan, let me give you another example of what I'm talking about. The same friend I'm talking to you had 3 sons. 3 sons. One went to college, graduated political science. The other 2 graduated high school. They didn't go to college. Right now, those young boys that's in their 20s, own a successful paving company where they're getting contracts to pave roads and to pave parking lots, $200,000 and up.
Mm.
They're in their 20s. I'm telling you, they're my son age. They're in their 20s. I was with these kids when they were little kids. This is how long I've known. They're in their 20s. And they now have a successful paving company where they are getting contracts now for, and I'm proud of them, by the way. I'm not knocking anything, but once again, I'm just showing you the example of the different access that they have over even my son, who's friends with them, by the way. And by the way, they was like, Eben, why don't you come be with us? Oh, you can come over here and, what I'm saying, be part of this. But he wanted to do his own thing, what I'm saying. But, I mean, the reality of the matter is, like, their access to be able to get that capital, they got dump trucks now. They got a dumb roller. They afford rollers. They afford, there's so much. And I'm proud of them for the work they're doing, but the access they have, the opportunity they got over my kids to be able to do those same things is totally different.
Yeah.
Totally different. Totally different.
And Eric, you were going to say something.
No, I was just saying, yeah, but it got me to thinking about the whole Ivy League college thing, the DEI issue, and how they were talking about, blacks having opportunities to go, minorities having opportunities to go to these colleges that put our kids in positions to have access, to be in these same positions, to meet other people that, they say college, some people say college, higher learning, some of those institutions is where people forge relationships that they can build on business later on, or just even the value of the education that they would get in whatever endeavor, business or law or whatever. It's that access that the lack of those institutions or having access to being able to go to those institutions takes away. I'm an HBCU graduate, so I'm like, the hell with them anyway. You should be at an HBCU in the first place to get the real education, to understand how the game in this country is played. But that's just me. So,
but I think that's on a deeper point, because there are very few people, right? Like, the percentage of people who go to college is small. The percentage of people who go to Ivy League colleges generally is small. But the access that I think you're talking about, Rock, is access for people who don't go to college. Right. And that will help a whole lot more people. Because it's not necessary to have the same access of Van Jones, right? Or the same access to really wonderful, amazing individuals. But that's not really what will help the masses of people, right? Like, most people are never going to have access to that, white or black. Never going to be into those rooms, whatever, right? But the real thing, if you're going to have access to people generationally, right? Like, if you're going to have access to a population, it has to be something where, if you don't go to college but want to own your own business, what are those options? What are those opportunities? And what conversations do we need to be talking about, both on a local level and on a federal level? And I think that this whole conversation was great in that, if you can connect to the Harris campaign, that would be amazing, because that, I think, is the message that they need to hear, because they're struggling with black men. And if they don't win Georgia, right? If they don't win North Carolina, if they fall short in the votes they need in Philadelphia, right? We're not going to be able to say nothing, right?
Jonathan, and I'll add to it in the form of a question, right? And Rock, take this as you see fit. Now, we're raising the question of the difficulty in black men having the capacity to express loyalty, and that's Democrats want. They want loyalty to the Democratic Party. It puts the Harris campaign at risk. There's another elephant in the room. Democrats can be better on immigrants depending on where those immigrants are coming from. Some of them are getting bombed the hell out of, right? And in the face of this disaster and this strike, somebody put up a graphic that the disaster relief fund, which has always been deep, in this country has all of a sudden been exhausted. And if you look at the amount of what it's been exhausted with and all the money that's going to allow the Israeli state to bomb the hell out of Gaza with impunity, now into Lebanon, already displaced over 1 million people, what does the Harris campaign have to do to not blow this election?
I mean, the problem to me with that is that, right, you got to walk a fine line. She's got to walk a fine line with that, right? She can't seem too on the left, and she can't seem. She has to take a middle ground on that, right? Ultimately, I do believe that Israel has a right to defend themselves. I don't believe that you have a right to annihilate a people. I don't believe you have a right to destroy a country. I don't believe you have a right to just keep on bombing people, innocent human beings, right? The question, though, is who's going to stop this guy, though? I mean, because I just think that Netanyahu has just like, I'm going to be honest with you, man. And I think Biden get frustrated with it. I think the guy has just lost his mind. And in some respects, I think he's doing it because he's trying to save face in his own country because of what's happening with him, with the political situation. And he know that the right of his country, you know what I'm saying, for him to remain in power, this is what he want to continue to do. And I don't think there's anything in the Democratic Party that you can do to stop him because clearly, ultimately, it's his country. And if he want, we giving him the bombs, we selling them the stuff. And if he want to drop them, he going to make that decision to drop. He ain't listening to nothing Biden say. Biden tell him, ceasefire, brother. Stop doing. Don't go into Lebanon.
But they keep giving him the money.
Because to be honest with Saeed, they have no choice because once again, the reason why we are in the deal is my wife in the military, so I kind of understand this a little better when it comes down to the geopolitics, when it comes down to things. We are in countries and we are aligned with countries that we are really enemies with, that really don't support us. But we are in them because we have bases in them. You know what I'm saying? We build alliances with them. We are the most powerful military in the world because of our strategic base of operations in the Middle East, in Europe, you know what I'm saying, in Asia. Like, we got bases all over this planet. That's what makes us the most powerful military in this country. And the reality of the matter is that Israel in the Middle East is one of our biggest allies. They're never not going to give him the money because they need that geographic land to have bases so that if something go down, they can be able to deal with the situation. So, I mean, the politics of that.
That is, I got to say this, so that is where imperialism and colonialism kiss.
Yeah, I don't listen, and I'm not denying that you're right or wrong with it. I'm just telling you based on a country's protection of its citizens. This is the level of protection that Americans have throughout this world. And the reason why they have these bases in countries that don't necessarily like us, would rather us get out, you know what I'm saying, in the country. I don't agree that this guy should be bombing no innocent citizens. I think he should have been at a ceasefire. Like, this guy's crazy. But I'm going to tell you, he probably want Trump to win. Yep. More than likely.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Their version of Trump.
Yeah, so, right. So it's more than likely he want Trump to win because he knows Trump will allow for him to do whatever the hell he want to do. So the best thing to do is, listen, let me extend this war. Biden been there to ask this guy, listen, stop. Create ceasefire. Stop throwing the bomb. We're not giving you these big bombs no more. They stopped those bombs, by the way. He's not getting the really big bombs anymore. They're giving them ammunition, but they're holding back some of the really big, you know what I'm saying, bombs that he has. And he's still like, I don't give a shit. I'm not. And part of it might be because I'm like, Biden said it today. You heard what Biden said today. I don't know if he's doing it or not to have an impact on the election. But Biden knows that's exactly what he's doing. Right. You know what I'm saying? If it looks like there's chaos in the Middle East and that the war is going to get stronger and it's going to he thinks that benefit Trumps. He believes that benefits Trump. No different than Putin and that damn Russia doing the crazy shit he's doing to Ukraine. You know what I'm saying? They escalate these wars. They dealing with stuff because they believe that if Trump wins, they can do whatever the hell they want to do in this world, and he would begin to start erasing some of the alliances that we've created over the year. And I'm gonna be real with you, Zahid. I'm telling you from a strategic point of view, I don't know if that's better for this country. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that's better for this country, brother. I'd rather feel protected. I'd rather my family feel protected than Putin feel he can send troops to America to take over. Or China feel You can do it.
Strategic how they chopped up the world and how they established presence in parts, because against the other superpower in the world, having those strategic bases all over the place certainly helps out. Especially, obviously we were fighting in Europe for a while too, so we stayed in Germany for a while.
And I know that we have reached the end of the segment, but we have had this has been a learning segment, right? Because there are a lot of things that were talked about that I did not know beforehand, and I really do think that that message needs to get up and out so that she can have these conversations, because this election is going to be razor close. We didn't get into all the different reasons why I think that there is a clear choice, right? Like who Trump is, what he stands for, all that other stuff. But I think that they need to, the onus, and I think that this is a good conversation, because the onus is on the campaign to make the communication effort to understand why she's not getting certain support, or why the support's only at close to 80%, right? Which is not only, it's still a landslide, but she needs more in order to win in these close races. Yeah. Favorite hip hop artist, individual or group? Let me know.
I'm gonna be honest with you, brother. I stopped listening to this crazy hip hop, brother. I don't, you know what I'm saying, see nothing that these folks saying that is impressive to me. I'm gonna go with my son, because these crazy people, man. I don't listen to that crap no more. I turn it off, brother. I'm telling you, man. I put on my Apple AirPods in the car and listen to old school music, because this stuff that these people be saying is off the chain, bro. They're a different generation, brother. They're a different generation, brother.
So who do you listen to in your old generation? Like, who do you listen to now?
Man, I listen to the KRS Ones, the Eric B and Rakims. I mean, you know what I'm saying? The same old school cats. I mean R&B, old school R&B. Like, I don't listen to this generation music, because I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't understand. I tell my sons to them all the time, I don't understand what y'all saying, brother. I don't know what the music that y'all putting out, man. We have music that uplifted us, bro. These folks got music, like, I mean, this girl, Sexy Red, man, is horrible.
Oh, I think she's the worst of the generation.
Oh my God!
There's some people who, a little better.
I don't know what that. But we got black institutions having her perform at college campuses, though. I don't, Penn State had her performing at their college game. Like, bro, this is like, come on, dude. Like, bro, shit, man, come on, bro. I mean, they saying some. Dude, you listen to the music, bro. I don't want my daughter listening to that. I'm just being honest. I can't stop her, but I don't want it. I ain't gonna lie. I don't want it.
But whereas Rhapsody and No Name really don't get any play. Those are brilliant young rappers, right? Like they you got to just know in order to know who they are, because they don't get really played much on the radio. My students actually know them. A lot of my students are like, "Oh, Miss Olsen, I think you like this. Miss Olsen, I think you like this," right? And so, I mean, that's how I heard about. Well, I heard about Rhapsody through Bashir. I heard about No Name through a couple of my students who were like, "No, she's a poet, man. You like words, right?" And I'm like, "You're right," because they brilliant. But Eric, well, who are you listening to now?
I'm with Rock. I'm an old school head. But lately I've been listening to Tribe a lot. Low End Theory. I've been on that. I heard this DMX. I like a little bit rawness. When DMX is someone I listen to regularly.
I've been watching his movies.
Yeah. He's pretty good. Yeah, I mean DMX, and also I saw this Indian rapper that had this hard cut, humankind or something like that. I get exposed to a lot of the music on YouTube, man. I don't know, I don't know from the radio and stuff like that. But definitely that. I got to jump, guys. I got to pick somebody up from an airport. But
all right. Well, thank you for this month, man. And Rob, thank you for coming on as well. Very much appreciate it.
Address of the deli.
Oh, absolutely.
What he said? What happened?
Get everybody address.
16 Urban Turner Boulevard, Big Rocks Deli. Y'all come on through. You know what I'm saying? Come get my mama's famous bean pie, because
that's right. She got her own brand.
The bean pie is amazing.
Wow, man.
The bean pie is amazing. I've had that more than once.
Yeah. The bean pies. Yeah, come get a famous bean pies, man. Come on,
With the
dude.
sandwiches, man.
Get you a sandwich, man.
And get the
Sandwiches almost big as
pastrami
my head,
sandwich.
but I got a
man.
big ass head.
Get the pastrami sandwich. Get the general with the pastrami and corned beef
Yeah.
on rye,
Yeah.
on rye bread, coleslaw, Russian dressing, rye bread.
I need to come down there and pass out some flyers to your students down at Rutgers and some of them other NJIT, man. I'm like, been so busy, man. But I need to get somebody to put some flyers out there, man, and get some business, man. Because I'm trying to keep this place open. Y'all, it ain't easy keeping a business on. I'm just letting you brothers know. That's all.
You got to put in some labor.
But you've got a great product. I mean, like I've always been impressed. It's like, yo, man, your stuff is just, your sandwiches are, to me, they're the best sandwiches in Newark, right? And I'm saying that as a lover of deli sandwiches, and you name the great deli that's in Newark, I've been there multiple times, right? Your sandwiches better than all of them. By far, it ain't close. The quality of your meat, the quality of the sandwiches, amazing. Like, I don't know what you do, but keep doing it, because like, it's some great stuff, man.
I appreciate y'all. Hey, thanks for having me on, fellas. I'll see y'all next time if y'all need me on. All right, peace.
All right, no, appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Take care, man. All right, peace. That was great. That was a great segment. I learned a lot in terms of both on what that strike was about, and I learned a lot also in terms of the specific ways that I didn't even think about. Right.
Month.
Right.
That was one of three just in the last month.
But we are now in a new segment, right? Zai, can you give us the introduction?
Oh man, I have been wanting.
He always gives a great introduction. So we're going to Zai, introduction.
Yes.
I don't know.
It's like one of them damn sandwiches we talk about, right? I have been wanting to do this segment for a minute. Y'all hear me in my often lifting up the legacy of the Black Panther Party, talk about the lineage of the party that we call the cubs of the Black Panther Party, right? The children of the Black Panther Party, how the legacy has extended through the children and young people who were influenced and touched by the Black Panther Party, right? And there's a whole lot of things that are happening now tied to a whole lot of things that have really not been amplified even during the Black Panther Party at its height. And what do I mean, right? There's this narrative in the easy coalescing of Black Panther narrative that almost limits everything exclusively to its West Coast origins, when the Panther Party was a national organization, right? Did some incredible things all over the country. Community survival programs, at least 62, right? Different chapters implemented them in different ways to different degrees and whatnot. And there was a whole lot of history that is really yet to be appreciated yet, right? And the guest that I'm about to introduce to you is taking on the task of trying to do that for the largest chapter in the Black Panther Party. Right? Right? All due respect. I mean, Oakland is considered Panther land, right? And we claim all of that, right? The LA chapter and right? But the chapter that fed the Black Panther Party, right? It's the Illinois chapter. Coldest, hardest streets in this country, straight up, right? Out of that came this mass of humanity that produced a Fred Hampton and a Mark Clark and some incredible people that have done some incredible things, right? That is still yet to be properly accounted for. This daughter of the party, this is Leila Willis, taking on the task of documenting where that happened, how that happened, and why that's happened, with the establishment of an important body that is called the, I want to make sure I get there because it's got a long title. The Historical Preservation Society of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party, right? And I'm going to tell you, as our elders age, I would dare say that this queen has set something has given us something that could be a model for historical preservation of the Panther legacy throughout the country, right? I want y'all to appreciate our special guest, Leila Wills, right? The engine driving the train that is the Historical Preservation Society of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party. Oh, power to the people, Queen.
Oh, power to the people. Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. This is overdue, but it's really a great time to be here. Right. I was going to say I can't move my camera with that view like that. Thanks so much.
We got you. Well, I mean, we have one of the things that we have done in recent years with this reclamation of the Black Panther Party by Black and brown youth in recent years, that October has now become known as Black Panther History Month.
Yes.
Right. So in that, there's an amplification of the Panthers' legacy, because the October 1566 is considered the founding of the party as we know it. And I wanted to use that opportunity to highlight the work of the Historical Preservation Society, things it's got coming up. But Leila, let's back up.
Okay.
As a Cub, as a child of the party, let's talk about your legacy, right? Who were your parents in the Black Panther Party, and how did that set you flowing?
Can we both be up at the same time?
Yeah, he must have stepped there. You got it.
Okay. I can't do this. I don't know how to do. Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's much better. I'm so tired. And I'm fresh back from the state of Illinois capital, Springfield, Illinois, for the 26th annual conference on Illinois history. And I was a featured speaker where I got a chance to explain to historians from the state of Illinois what we are doing for the Black Panther Party in our state. So, excuse me, my parents were from the South Side and were in the Illinois chapter. My mom worked at the medical center.
Say their name.
Linda. I don't want to say too much, honestly, right now.
Okay. All right.
We have stuff going on. Linda and Tony, we'll say that.
Okay.
So they're both from the South Side, and we're from Altgale Gardens. And she worked at the medical center, and also, of course, sold newspapers and that kind of thing. And my father, both of them came. My father was at chairman's funeral and different things like that, but they both officially became party members in 1970. Yeah. And
that's important to put a pin in.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of folks think of the Illinois chapter as just Chicago.
Yeah.
Right. And it had a beginning and an ending with the assassination of Chairman Fred and Chairman Mark.
Right.
And that just ain't true.
Correct.
It continued for a number of years after that and continued to be rather large.
Yeah. The assassinations of Chairman Fred and Defense Captain Mark Clark, December 4th, 1969, is an important date because a lot of the people who were in the party at that time, a lot of people left after that. But it didn't, and then a new whole cadre joined, after that too. So some of the party members who were in from 1968 until December the 4th may not know a lot of the people who joined kind of after them, and vice versa. So a lot of them are meeting now for the first time and didn't know each other at that time. And one of the benefits of what we're doing, because as you know, the party suffered a lot from COINTEL, and a lot of relationships were damaged and everything. And we have seen people come back together, and it's just been a beautiful thing. Nobody knew what I was talking about when I was first talking about landmarking the Black Panther Party, which we'll get into. But they still humored me and let us interview them and gave us the history, and that is still ongoing. But to see them all come back together has been a beautiful thing.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah. For this is a teaching platform, right? And we're laying out some history.
Yeah.
Let's explain to folks just how big the chapter was.
Yeah, so when Brother Zaid said it was the biggest chapter, I said, because it's a friendly rivalry between California and Illinois. Okay. So yeah, and so of course I wasn't there.
I'm New York, so I'm like, I don't care about that.
Yeah, and of course I wasn't there, so I just sit back and laugh when they say, and the Illinois chapter, and of course we do that when California people are around. So that's But the Illinois chapter was it was the leader of the Midwest region also, and the state of Illinois, I don't know how many miles it has, but they organized all throughout the state, from the northern tip from Waukegan and Rockford all the way down to East St. Louis and Carbondale and other places in Illinois. And so we're talking about Michigan.
That's a lot of territory.
Yeah, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Iowa, and Missouri.
That bugged me out. I saw Iowa.
Yeah.
I grew up thinking we got 3 Negroes in Iowa, and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
Right? And that ain't true.
Right. Yeah. And even in Illinois, you would think you only had Black folks in Chicago. And
that's right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when you think about the Black Panther.
Wait, hold up. I'm sorry. You said there were Black Panthers in Iowa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I'm learning something a lot on every show, because I thought there were I've been to Iowa. It's white. It's really, really, really white. Wow, man, were they in different? I'm gonna let you talk, but I'm gonna ask questions about Black Panthers in Iowa. Wow,
every location didn't have a headquarters like Chicago or Oakland. Okay, so you may have had organizers on the ground, and remember, they tried to make it. They being the FBI. They had the Black Panthers categorized as a gang, but really the Black Panthers were college students. A lot of them, especially the Illinois chapter, they were in college, and they did a lot of organizing in college. And Iowa is next door to Illinois. So there's spillover in colleges, and people from Chicago went to school in Iowa kind of thing. So I don't want to blow Iowa up like it was some huge chapter of the party, because it wasn't, but they did have organizers on the ground.
And the way you broke that down was beautiful, because I think that I remember when I was reading about them, I was like, yo, all of them are not just in college. A lot of them are getting their doctorate. A lot of them are in grad school. And I was like, wow, this is a story that's not really told much. So thank you for that.
Yeah. So at this conference where I was, before I do that, I wanted to talk about the Great Migration. So one thing, the Panther Party is a story also of the Great Migration. And a lot of them were either first generation or second generation. So when we talk about Minister Huey, from his people were from Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
today is Imam Jamil's birthday, straight out of Louisiana, Baton Rouge. Come
Chairman Fred's people are
Louisiana.
But he was born in Illinois. So, but his family had come up from Louisiana, and Minister Rush, his family is Georgia, and I believe Chairman Bobby Seale, wasn't he Georgia as well?
Texas.
Thank you, Texas. Yeah. And so when you talk about a state like Illinois, which is where my research is focused, Illinois is still so in slavery. Before the Emancipation Proclamation, when slaves were escaping, and not all of them did the Underground Railroad. A lot of them made their way north on their own, following the Mississippi River, which is the western border of Illinois. So Illinois' western border can change depending on what the river is doing. So along the journey north into Canada, they came, their stops, Carbondale, Peoria, East St. Louis, all these places ended up having a Black population also, which was still true during the Great Migration. So you had these different migrations of Black people, slaves seeking freedom, heading to Canada through Chicago and Detroit, or not through Chicago, through Indiana, and then along, the Lake Michigan. So it's all very historical. And one of our goals is that the Panther history is a part of the city and state's history, not as a side note, not as a civil rights group, but it is a legitimate part of our state's history. So I was just at the Abraham Lincoln Library in Springfield, Illinois, talking about the heritage trail of the Black Panther Party in Illinois. Now, what we've done, and stop me anytime, but I just want to tell you the origin story. Okay. So I was over at with Fred Hampton Jr., helping him landmark the childhood home of Chairman Fred in Maywood, Illinois. And Chairman Fred's parents from Louisiana, they ended up settling in Argo, which is also where Emmett Till's family was from. And Mrs. Iberia Hampton I was just with the Till family in Springfield. Mrs. Iberia Hampton was very good friends with Mamie Till, Emmett Till's mother. And Mrs. Iberia babysat Emmett, and they all called him Bobo. And so that's Argo, Illinois, which is now called Summit, Illinois. And then the Hamptons moved to Maywood and became staples in this suburb 11 miles right outside of Chicago. So that's where the landmarking started. And even though my parents were in the Illinois chapter, I had never sat down to study the Illinois chapter in this way before. And when I was over there, I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize how extensive their work was in Illinois and the Midwest region. And I said, we need to landmark the entire chapter. And so that's how I started. And I started interviewing Panthers all over the place, getting a survey of properties, addresses, going on. And I had interns also from Loyola University's public history department. So anything I say, it wasn't me alone, because this was a big, heavy lift. So that was in 2020. And the research for the party, the Illinois chapter, took 3 years. And what we ended up getting or obtaining just this past December, right after Christmas, was the Illinois chapter on the National Register of Historic Places, the chapter, not a building. Okay. So usually you're landmarking a property like the Maywood House. But in the Panthers case, the FBI and Chicago police, all of the Panthers' main properties have all been demolished in Chicago. They are all empty lots. So what we're doing is placemaking and recreating spaces to honor the Illinois chapter. And this just happened right after, like December 26th, literally. So once we did that, we had been very quiet before then because it was so research intensive that once we accomplished that, I said, all right, well, we'll be lucky. Now it's time to let people know what we're doing, and we'll be lucky to get historical markers for headquarters, the assassination site, and the Southside office. And so we did this PR campaign, and meaning like just public education. Hey, this is what we're doing, blah, blah, blah. And we had such an overwhelming response. Like instead of raising enough money for 3 markers, we raised like $50,000. And so we are going to have 13 markers starting out. And these 13 markers are the beginning of the Black Panther Party Heritage Trail in Illinois. So we are going to, like I said, have online curriculum, a whole lot of educational tools for self-guided or guided tours. We did an inaugural bus tour where the Panthers came, and the people who were on that bus got to hear from them firsthand. Our landmarking documentation is over 200 pages. It's available to the public for free.
That's a book.
To educators. It absolutely is. And we were thinking about that, publishing that. Mm-hmm. And I want to say something about that too. When you do something for the state, the government, the National Register, which is ran by the National Park Service and the Secretary of Interior. That's the head State Department of the U.S. government. It has to be written a certain way. Now, so one thing also is in this presentation I did are white people. Like when you say about Iowa, it's the same with Illinois. You wouldn't think that there's such a heavy Black population outside of Chicago, but there really is. So when you have white people who would be contemporaries of the Panthers, they were fed the propaganda machine. So when they listen to me, they're like, oh, wow. Like, and they'll say, I never knew any of this. So the Panthers are there in people's psyche, but the smear campaign is there. And if you're not like us, reading the FBI files and seeing the planted news stories, reading the Chicago Tribune and other newspapers at the time, and seeing the news stories the FBI planted. So if you're just a general person from the general public, you have no connection to the Panthers, so you're just going to believe the propaganda machine, good, bad, or indifferent. Even if you didn't mean any harm, that's the ideal or the idea that you had of the Panthers all this time, right? And so now here we come saying that no, J. Edgar Hoover stated that he was going to destroy the Panthers in 1969. When he said that, all of the chapters around the country were raided, and they weren't just raiding them, they were destroying the food for the breakfast program. They were pouring water all over the newspapers. They were setting everything on fire and destroying the walls and brutalizing the members and humiliating them in front of the community and all of these things. So just like the story of the Underground Railroad, you can't tell about the good white folks and the abolitionists without telling the force of slavery and the humanization of slavery, the institution, and the white people in free states that helped them and still had Jim Crow laws. So I think I learned in recent years the slavery that took place in Illinois. Like people will think Illinois was a free state, and it absolutely was not a free state. So go ahead. I could just go on forever. I don't want to just go on tangent. So I just want to say that we are also building the Mark Clark Memorial Park in Peoria. Mark, at the time, December the 4th, 1969, when Defense Captain Mark Clark and Chairman Fred were assassinated, all of the leadership in Illinois were in Chicago because of the repression they were under from the police and FBI, and they needed to figure out a way forward to survive, the Panthers. And people were being arrested, the leadership, they had locked up Chairman Fred, he was just out, and he had like about a week to turn himself in from an old charge from the ice cream truck robbery. Yes. I'm going to say that, and a lot of people may not know what I'm talking about, but he was arrested for stealing ice cream, which was a total lie. And now in December, he had to turn himself in. So they decided, the FBI worked with the state's attorney's police rather than risk him running, because remember, we have informants, and there was discussion on should he go to Cuba, should he go to Algiers, should they shoot it out with the cops when they came for him, like should he turn himself in? And they decided to assassinate him rather than risk him getting away or risk him being locked up like Huey. And then there becomes this Free Fred campaign where they made Huey Newton into this whole martyr of the revolution. They didn't want that to happen for Chairman Fred, so they went in and assassinated him. Mark was sitting there at the door because there were more than just, there was a lot of people in town, so it's a lot of people at the Panther cribs, and he was he was killed instantly. So we never forget Mark when we honor Chairman Fred. And Mark had a breakfast program in Peoria. He was beloved in his community. So you would have Mark and a few people he was organizing, but it wasn't some huge chapter like Chicago was. The church, everywhere Mark went to start a breakfast program, the FBI went and they interviewed these people. They went to their jobs and his parents, and they were scaring Black people to stay away from the Black Panthers. One church allowed Mark to have his breakfast program, and that church is Ward Chapel AME. The AME denomination was very instrumental in the Underground Railroad.
Absolutely.
And that church is not only the oldest Black church in Peoria, it's the oldest church in Peoria. And we're gonna get that church listed on the National Register. That church has its first woman pastor, Pastor Elaine Gordon, and they're gonna allow us, we're all partnering to build the Mark Clark Memorial Park, a place of contemplation and beauty on the church's grounds, to remember Mark, to remember other loved ones who we've lost, to remember. We'll have markers throughout. It'll be a walking trail. So we're in the beginning stages of that, but Peoria is the only location outside of Chicago right now that's part of our heritage trail. Yeah, it's really beautiful. And we are all, and the Clark family. So the partners are the Historical Preservation Society, which contains Black Panthers. Our board is has Black Panthers and all of that. The Clark family and the church, trustees and all of that. So soon, not yet, but we'll do community outreach and all that kind of stuff. But Mark was, he was beloved in his community. The original home the Clark family had was demolished during their whole, you know, how neighborhoods change and all that kind of stuff. So the church is still there.
I think that's so brilliant, because when you were saying landmarking the Black Panther Party, I was like, well, what is landmarking? And really, you're talking about the historic preservation of memory. And you're talking about, like, literally, there can be a Black Panther trail
throughout the country there can be, but when you landmark, it's state specific, so we can't landmark in Michigan or New York and those people, but we do meet with other Panthers and children of Panthers around the country to you know, they are free to use all of our research and all of my bumps and bruises along the way. It took us 3 years to do what we did. I don't think it would take another chapter 3 years. I think it just takes them 1 year, because we already learned the hard way. All of, you know, we didn't know what we were doing, but we ended up getting it done. Yeah, and
there was so much ground to cover because it was so extensive, right?
Yes.
Other places are not going to be as extensive.
Correct. Yeah, and when you're talking about the Black Panthers, everything is so our learning is place based, but you can also say people based. So everything, which is what I told them in Springfield, everything with the party is all power to the people. Where there's people, there's power. They're starting these survival programs. Why do you need survival programs? Because the people needed to survive pending the revolution. So when they started their programs, they were specific about where these programs were.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So now when we're landmarking, we now have to talk about what was the population at that time, what was going on over there at that time, what were the children. The party in Chicago tested over 30,000 kids for sickle cell anemia at Chicago public schools. So what we're doing is there's no way to separate the Black Panthers from the Great Migration. There's no way to separate the Great Migration from slavery. There's no way to separate the Black Panthers from all the communities in Chicago, the Black communities that were established from the Great Migration. And there's no way. The person who got them their headquarters in Chicago was not only a Black alderman in the 60s, he was part of the Tuskegee Airmen. Like there's
Wow.
like all of our histories, Bobby Rush.
There were Black Panther regiments in World War II.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother story.
Yeah. And
Oh.
we have a 30-year congressman. We have like, there's no way to separate all these different facets of Black history.
Is this
And
what
that's
they
why
mean by intersectionality?
Well, that I'm saying that's why our history must be on the state's record. It's not a blip. It's not a side thought. It's not
Right.
Black history.
Right.
It's the history of the state
Belongs
of
in the
Illinois.
mainstream of the overall history.
Yes.
Mhm.
And in Oakland, what they're doing is they have their original structure on where the meetings were. And they are trying to create the Emmett Till family. They have a monument for Emmett Till. And when you say monument, I don't mean like a statue. So they have the place, Robert's Temple, where the funeral was held, where Mamie made his casket open.
Okay.
That is in all those
Mm.
newspapers, Jet magazine, everywhere.
Let's
So
set that off.
that's a landmark. The courthouse in Mississippi is a landmark. The landscape where they found his body by that river is landmark. That's a monument. So what Oakland is trying to do is create a Black Panther Party monument, meaning like a national park throughout, not non-contiguous, you know what I'm trying to say. Illinois would go under theirs, under that, right? But we still have our heritage trail. Now, if we could get some heritage trails, so any other chapter would go under this national monument. That's been in the works for several years, and it's picking up. It might actually happen. We don't know yet, but
We got to figure that out for the East Coast.
yeah. So the East Coast, if we can get some landmarks going, we could, then that's a heritage trail, because even if let's say New York only had one office, which is not true, but if we deal with somewhere that only had one office, they still had breakfast programs somewhere.
Right.
They still had newspaper distribution. They still had college organizing. There's still going to be a trail of work the Panthers did. Then we would be able to connect all of our trails and to have a national heritage trail for the Black Panther Party. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. It really is. And you should see, and I just want to say this for any naysayers out there, right? This, when you deal with the state, and if we're trying to get recognition from the state, this is the state. You have law enforcement. The state that we're dealing with are historians. We're dealing with the State Historic Preservation Office. We're dealing with our now contemporaries. The person who helped us get this done, she works for our state's office. Her name is Amy. And I had done, my interns did one draft. I did the next draft, and my draft is like, you know, like it's written journalistically, but you can't help that you can feel a little bit of the fire. Then Amy comes in, because it can't be written like that. It has to be written academically. So these are the things I can help the other chapters understand. You still have the facts in there, but it has to read like a textbook. And so she helped us. So when we talk about the state, we have people in these offices who you don't even know their background, no matter what their color is, who want these things to happen. In the city of Chicago, one of those people in the city's preservation office, she said, I am so honored to be able to vote on this. She's from Argo, the same place Mrs. Hampton and Emmett Till's family was from. So you can't just throw everything away with the state. We're not going to the FBI saying, please recognize us. We're not doing that. We're not asking for an apology from the FBI. We're not doing any of that kind of stuff. We are doing a self-determination move. This is self-determination to benefit, while we still have Panthers with us, and to benefit people when we're not, the kids aren't here, and the children of the party aren't here, for generations to come. That's what we are doing. Self-determination.
That is the meaning of legacy.
Yes. And this is written from the vantage point, personal, you know, these are Black Panther Party members who contributed this, who let us interview them. So we have the academic sources, and then we have their perspective. They read this landmarking thing to approve it first and to give us corrections, and don't think they won't give us corrections.
You know they are.
I get corrected all the time. All the time. They say next time it's not this, it's that, you know. So so these people take their history extremely serious, and the bloodshed that happened, and the assassinations, and the people who lost their lives in jails, and all the trumped up charges. My own parents, they had them up on charges of attempted murder. Like, they would just fake these charges. So the Black Panther Party takes,
and we still got some in prison. I mean, I started the show talking about Imam Jamil. He's 23 years in deep,
and they don't care anything about it. They
That's
threw
right.
their lives away. They just threw their lives away like they were completely worthless. And we are saying that the Black Panther Party doesn't just matter to our families, they matter to the community. And every event we have, there's a line around the corner. There's so many people. This is nerdy stuff. This is historical stuff. Like, who wants to study history? You should see all the warm reception that we get from everyone, people in political positions and everything.
It's interesting
speaking of events and long lines and whatnot, what's coming up at the end of the month? And I got to figure out how to get out there too. I've been, you know, Chicago been calling me for a minute.
This is a really, really, really important time. So as you said, which I tell everyone, please try again. Sorry, Siri thinks I'm talking to him, but I'm not. What I tell everyone about Black Panther Party History Month. That's another thing that the Panthers decided for themselves. And I was told about this because I remember a few years ago, I was planning some kind of event, and one of the party members from California said, well, you know, October is Black Panther Party History. I said, I didn't know that. Like, so don't think I had all this knowledge all these years, because I totally didn't. But so every October, party members from around the country have educational events, or they do their postings. You will see October being honored for the Black Panther Party. So this October, on Sunday, October 27th, is our dedication ceremony. We're going to have all of our markers. They're all ordered. We're going to have them on display, and we are dedicating the Heritage Trail, a heritage trail in Illinois, to the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party. We are honoring them. We are telling them how important they are to our history, and it's going to be just a party. And if I can just if you can excuse me, I'd like to show you our very first marker. Hang on a second.
Okay. I'm trying to bring that. They changed the date, so I can't bring it up, because the original date was the 26th, and it's on the 26th.
Yeah, the 26th we can't do.
Yeah.
So yes. I know you can't see it all the way, but it's for the Spurgeon Jake Winters Medical Center. But you see,
remind everybody who Jake was.
So Jake was, and he worked on the medical center. Hang on a second. It's heavy.
This is interactive educational radio, y'all, on All Politics and Local.
So Jake was killed by the Chicago police. I want to say in November of 1969, part of the repression that came down. And Jake was part of the crew who were getting the medical center ready, and the medical center was supposed to open in November. You'll see in the Black Panther Party newspaper, Chairman Fred kept talking about and kept announcing that, we hope it's going to open, it's going to open at this date, and it kept getting pushed because the city wouldn't give them permits. Like, it was always something that they were trying to stop the medical center from being open. So even though they had a dedication of the medical center on December the 25th, 1969, after Chairman and Mark were assassinated, but it wasn't named in their honor because they had all decided to name it after Jake even before Chairman was assassinated. Right. So I don't know if he was involved in that decision or not, but that's why it wasn't named after him. That's why they had already decided to name it after Jake, and it officially opened in the beginning of January. Now, imagine how hard that was after Chairman and Mark were assassinated, and they still were determined to open it. I mean, and these were young people. It was just, they just had hearts that I don't like modern day groups that try to say that they're just like the Panthers and everything else. No, the Panther Party also had survival programs. They weren't just doing protests and yelling at the man. They were taking care of the community. And you don't see that in any of these other groups. Mothers, that the goal of these programs were for the party members to start them, but for the people to take them over. So they were required to have the moms and people at these breakfast programs, and then so that they can continue and keep opening them around the city. And they politicized other gangs in Chicago, not other gangs, you know what I'm saying? Some of them were gangs and some were not. But we, you know how we had redlining. So the Young Lords, they were founded by Cha-Cha Jimenez in Chicago, and they were already challenging the system. And then Cha-Cha and Chairman became very good friends, and then they became more politicized. The Young Patriots on the north side, these are white youth who were also, they were all battling the same thing because the city wanted to take these prime areas for white people who were moving to the suburbs. So they were all being displaced with urban renewal, which was people removal. Cleansing. Yes, ethnic cleansing and all of that.
This is the birth of the real and original Rainbow Coalition. That's what you're talking about. Absolutely. Keep rocking.
Yeah. And it wasn't even just those groups. There were Chicanos. I have a whole list of gangs who were real gangs, and then they all started newspapers, a 10-point platforming program. Some of them had their own medical centers. They all started breakfast programs modeled after the Black Panther Party. And Chairman, Illinois became so powerful when that happened that they were challenging the Daley regime, which led to Chairman having a target on him.
Absolutely.
You know, it was the FBI, but the FBI was not going to let that catch on anywhere. And Chairman Fred was the only leader or only citizen of the United States that has ever been assassinated by law enforcement outright, where the FBI and the state's attorney police, were in collusion to assassinate him. That is never, not Dr. King, not Medgar Evers, no matter what conspiracy theories there are, can you point to law enforcement actually carrying out assassination directly?
Yes, directly.
Okay, I'm done. Ask me anything. I'm done preaching. Like, I mean, there are certain points I just want to make sure we always keep in mind, you know.
Yeah. 69 was the bloodiest year of the party. Bloodiest year. You know, it started out with, you know, what happened, you know, Bunchy and Johnny in January of 69, you know, Fred, right up to Fred and Mark, and then the attack on the California chapters right after that.
Yes.
Right after that. I mean, 2 days after that.
Yeah. And they attacked Portland and Seattle, all St. Louis, all around the country. He said he was going to annihilate, destroy the Black Panthers in 1969. And all over the country, they were being attacked.
It's interesting.
And appreciate this, Jonathan. That's where the national call, because we going into a crazy ass election season, right? That's where the party made the call for a national united front against fascism.
Fascism.
It didn't come out of the sky. We talk about fascism. We ain't
Right.
coming out of the sky. We coming right from the bloody trails of our own history.
And I think that when people are even talking about fascism, they're talking about the contemporary situations. They don't realize that, like, in our communities, like, we've experienced fascism for a long time, as in we've experienced the government literally killing us. They kill activists, they frame us, they, like, people who are speaking out against the government or even
Jim Crow
organizing
segregation
breakfast.
was a fascist mode of operation.
And
That's
that
what it
didn't
was.
end. That didn't end after Jim Crow, right? Because you're talking about the Panthers who existed in the aftermath of Jim Crow, right? Like, in the aftermath of Jim Crow and before the prison industrial complex, like, you have an area where, like, the laws had changed, right? And so there was a belief the laws had changed. So we free 1964 Civil Rights Act, 1965 Voting Rights Act, legal segregation ended, but yet the police response, the federal government response, the COINTELPRO response, what does that say for both then and now?
So, Minister Huey said that when they were first organizing and doing the police patrols in California, that the police department in Oakland were recruiting from Georgia, like, because he said he found a flyer or something trying to get Oakland was trying to recruit Southern,
Mississippi and Louisiana.
yeah, because they knew how to handle these Negroes, and the prison. We all know what it is. Ever since the Emancipation Proclamation and the slaves were freed, and that's also when self-defense, Black people from Ida B. Wells to the Deacons of Defense, and the Panthers did not invent self-defense. Black people advised themselves and others, you better have a gun from these crazy white folks because they will be coming for you. Like, you better not go to sleep without a rifle under your bed. Like, that was a rule for Black people who weren't afraid, kind of thing. And one of the people from the Southern from the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, he said that even though Dr. King, he put it in a book, even though Dr. King used nonviolence as a strategy, his house was like an arsenal. And he said, if you notice, Dr. King's house was never firebombed. None of that happened because the Deacons of Defense and others had his house like an arsenal full of guns, Dr. King's home.
Yeah, actually, David Garrow writes in that in his biography of Killing the Movement. He talks about how he came into the living room, and this is when Bayard Rustin, rather, came into the living room and literally sat on the couch and was full of guns, right? And how he had to literally talk King into pushing even further away from, like, those types of armaments to the philosophy or theory of nonviolence, right? Because nonviolence was a strategy, not necessarily an internalized belief until later. And that's, the role of Bayard Rustin in that organizing. But yeah, that's actually talked about in David Garrow's book on Martin Luther King, and that, the house was full of guns. Like, Bayard Rustin came in and the house was full of guns because they needed them for protection.
So also after the Emancipation Proclamation we have the Ku Klux Klan. We have these people being the white racists and enslavers being the judges, being the jury, being the jailers, being the patrols. So all of that is the prison industrial complex doesn't just come out of a vacuum, as we all know, but these are things that I explain when I have my talks with people. And then but in modern day, I told these white people, you guys are acting like the same white people during slavery. It's like, I don't see nothing wrong. I don't know. You just, as long as everything's okay with me. When you all see the same oppression going on, even with prison, right? And so now we had 13. We had the new Jim Crow. We have all this documentation on what prison is, and there's still no remedy for it. So and there's no, when we have our neighborhoods like it is, that didn't come out of a vacuum either. Like you guys have trained our people to behave like this, and there's constantly a battle, because there's boots on the ground with people making a difference and all of that. But I'm like, please stop the innocent act here, okay? Please stop it. This contemporary date is only the future of before 1865. Like, none of this is
right.
You can't turn a blind eye and act like you don't know. But now that crime is creeping into these gentrified areas and other places, now people are kind of paying attention.
I think it's also like when, like, the wild thing is that when people are talking about, oh no, the rising coming of fascism, Black people in communities or people who know history or what happened to us is like, this is the tame version of what happened before. Like, and the reason why many people are noticing it now that didn't before is because, it didn't affect white people before, for the most part, right? Like, unless they were caught up on the wrong side, like the white people who joined the civil rights movement and were murdered, right, as a result of that. But if you were not involved, if you did not cross certain lines, then, and you were white, you didn't really have to worry about it. I think that the realization now is that there are a minority of white people who recognize, and I mean like 40% of white people are starting to recognize that they are in danger this time from the lawlessness, the lack of rights, the things that they see in someone who is promoting a lot of the past.
Yeah, and we also want to always be sure when we're recanting our reciting our history, that we've always had there was always a self-determination part of our history. And I say that there was the civil rights movement. Okay, so you had the civil rights movement, the strategy of nonviolence, the NAACP working on legislation and all that other stuff. But there is a marked change into Black power movement and self-determination.
That's right.
That is not the same movement. It's
right.
not the same movement. Even, and I said the Black Panther Party, they considered themselves a part of the human rights struggle that was taking place around the globe.
Civil rights, Black liberation. That's right.
Yeah, it was things going on in the Congo, in Cuba, in China. They said the police were an occupying army. That language was not in the civil rights movement. They had lumpen and all these different other terms that was part of the global struggle for human rights. So I just always want us to not let them try to just identify everything as the civil rights movement. That's no shade against the civil rights movement at all. I'm just saying that it was a totally different mindset that the next, that the Panthers had.
Leila, before we wind up,
I can see the chat if anybody's saying anything. Go right ahead.
Yeah, no, I want you to put in the link for the October 22nd, 27th event. I'm trying to put the link in right now just for the webpage.
Yeah, just put it for the website, because we have to deal with the venue and all that, and so I have to see if it's going to be like an invitation just for our members. Our members alone can fill up a space. We have like over 200 people, members, donors, and friends. So we'll have to keep you guys posted if it can be open to the public.
Oh, okay. That's powerful. Okay. All right. Now, we got to have you back because there's so much we wanted to take a part with you, because I mean, one of the things that you've done also is that you're an original, and I'm using, class struggle language. You're an original media worker in the creation of a Black media arm, and that's a story, right? and that's that has a long tradition.
Absolutely.
That's organically related to the Black liberation movement, right?
Yeah.
Because I was going to ask more questions about your biography, because the work you do is pretty fascinating.
It's loaded. It's loaded.
And I was asking, are you a historian, or are you because it's just that the work that you do is fascinating. You are thoroughly invested and engaged, and I learned so much from you just in this, right? Just even the term we were talking about landmarking the Black in Chicago. Oh, what is landmarking, right? And I mean, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. I'd love to come back anytime. It is a lot. We probably would just have to pick one aspect at a time to go into.
Yeah, because of the layers. Absolutely.
Break it down, Yeah.
Absolutely. Jonathan, take her home with the ritual question. She loaded on that front too.
Oh God.
All right. So we always ask all of our guests, who is your favorite hip hop artist, individual or group? Or who are you just rocking with now? Who's inspiring you to do the very good work that you do?
Well, when I'm doing this work, I have to put on the party soundtrack, okay, which is going to take us to the 1960s and 70s. So that's not hip hop. And the Illinois chapter, of course, is very partial to the Supremes. One Day We'll Be Together. So I played that a lot when I'm doing this.
What about Curtis Mayfield Impressions? Hold up.
Well, Chairman Fred he referenced the Supremes.
People get ready. A train is coming.
Yeah, they had a lot of songs. Yeah.
Keep on pushing.
There you go. Great music. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you take it back. You take it back to hip hop's precursors in order for this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you have to kind of place yourself in the time as much as you possibly can. And that's what we're going to do with the Heritage Trail. We have to recreate these spaces that have been demolished purposely, and lost. And that's what we're going to do, because this was the mindset of the party at that time. And yeah, all those songs too. I just say that Chairman Fred always referenced, not always, but he referenced that song shortly.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yes, he certainly did. 100%.
Yeah. But yeah,
glad we finally made this happen.
They would take contemporary songs and change the lyrics and have them at their meetings, which I love. Love.
Incredible stuff, man.
Yeah.
You can't make this stuff up.
Yeah.
Can't make this stuff up. Yeah, the chat is flying for you too. So
okay, thank you everybody, and thanks for having me.
Right.
Hi everybody in the chat, and I look forward to the next time. Please share a POC. What does POC mean?
They want to know a link to where you make a donation.
Oh, okay.
I put on that page.
Yeah, so the link is ILBPP.org, like Illinois Black Panther Party.org. ILBPP.org. You can see all of our landmarking work. You can see our fundraiser on there. You can read our landmarking document. You go to news and events. You can see pictures and stuff of the party members and our markers and events and stuff. So we don't make it a drag, we make it. Oh, point of contact. Thank you.
Teaching platform. It's organic.
You. Yeah.
I'm very proud of you, Leila Wills.
Thank you, and thank you. Thank you for all your support and encouraging messages. I appreciate it, because sometimes it's hard. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, no, we definitely have this drama too, for sure.
Yeah,
and you are definitely appreciated, and I think that history is so necessary, so that we can put things that happen now in context. People are always wondering, well, no, the United States wouldn't do that. The United States wouldn't do that, and that for anyone who knows history is like, they did it. They did it a lot of times. They did it a lot of times. They kept on doing it, and there are people who are still in prison for what they did, right?
Right.
And this history becomes really important, because it's like, y'all don't know it because they didn't do it to you. They didn't do it to people from your community. I don't know if you can see that
artwork. That's from the one and only Minister of Culture,
Emory Douglas.
Okay.
Oh, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That Emory Douglas was the person who did all of the illustrations. And he did all the illustrations for the Black Panther Party newspaper including the Panther. Is that the same? Is that the same person?
That's the same person. Until later years, there were other illustrators, but Emery did just about all of them, all the way until a certain point, and then he was still doing them all the way until the end of the newspaper. But then at the end there were other illustrators too. But yes.
And Jonathan, guess where he started out at?
Where?
He started out at San Francisco State, and one of his teachers was none other than Amiri Baraka in the first Black Studies program in the country.
Wow.
See?
Right?
It all comes together.
Rockaville, right? So we got to make all these links and pull all this stuff together.
We have to make all the links. We have to document all these links. That is a fact.
Oh, that's amazing.
Well, I don't want to take up. I know you have another segment, so I'll jump off. But thank you so much. It's a great way to start out the Black Panther Party History Month and to end this this conference where I just was talking about the party.
Yeah, you working a day. That's right.
Yep.
Right on. Okay.
All right.
All
right
on.
on.
All power. We'll be in touch.
Okay.
And thank you.
You got to take me down. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Good stuff.
Oh, that was excellent stuff, man. That was excellent.
Stuff. We want to do that with her for a minute. And let me tell you something. You know, and on the question of hip hop, she's also one of those strong voices on the question of accountability with hip hop when it comes to misogyny and sexism. She's a strong voice on that.
So we've got to get her back on just to.
Yeah, I mean, we could have a whole conversation just on that dimension of hip hop that still isn't properly talked about, and that's one of the things that this stuff with Diddy gives us an opportunity to do. I just won't put a pin in that.
Okay, and that's definitely right, because when you're talking about things that are open secrets, I think that those things are like, there's community consent, right? Like I think
maturation of hip hop, we got to have these conversations.
And actually, and let's be real. With Diddy, it's the mainstreaming commercialization of hip hop that opened all of these avenues. Because from all accounts, he was a ringmaster entertaining others, right? Like he was entertainment for Hollywood writ large. He was entertainment for so with Diddy, I think that is not just a hip hop story. It is probably less of a hip hop story than it is a cultural entertainment story. And that by the time he got to that level, right, those parties were not hip hop parties, right?
Go
those
ahead,
parties were like A-list individuals, billion-dollar individuals, right? Those were, I have arrived, I am part of the elite in America. And these are the parties that I'm having.
My king?
Not to but it's not to entertain like the hip hop community, right? These were hip hop parties, right? These were mainstream, like elite entertainment parties with people who made decisions in entertainment across, which is, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't think he's gonna make it to trial, right? Like, and some people are saying that more serious than others when realizing what happened with the other person who was arrested for running child sex rings, right? Like Epstein, who mysteriously died behind bars because he was a service to other people that a lot of people didn't want named, right? Like there were a series of people who visited the island. There were a series of people who went, right? With Puff Daddy, there were a lot of people who went to those parties. And part of me thinks that the story here just isn't a hip hop story. It's one that deals with entertainment. It's one that deals with mainstream entertainment. It's one that deals with the different actors, right? The different producers, the different decision makers who don't look like me and you, who are in those rooms too.
Loaded. And we ain't even get to the Tone yet. Is he there?
No, he's not in the background yet, right?
Oh, really?
No, we don't have. So what's this next segment supposed to be?
Get him back on then.
Yeah. So as you are, all right. So as you are texting him, what was this segment supposed to be about?
So, New Jersey Prison Watch, which is a coalition of folks who do work to, address prison reform and criminal justice reform in Jersey, and it's clergy and justice impacted in its organization. In fact, and it's also progressive organization. For example, ACLU, who I used to work for, is an important part of that coalition. It is indeed a coalition. They just dropped a report on how solitary confinement is practiced in New Jersey, and the importance of the report is that it's practiced in a way that is in violation of New Jersey's own law, and very much in violation of international standards around how solitary confinement is supposed to be used and not used. Right, this is one of the soprano state kind of things about Jersey, is that in its facade of being a blue state, right, one of the things that Jersey is infamous for is having key so-called progressive pieces of legislation that's not implemented. So the things that these key pieces of a legislation, like a racial impact study law, right, that's supposed to be in place to prevent the perpetuation of injustices and inequities and whatnot, simply are not followed. Right, they're on the books.
So we have the laws in the books, right?
Yeah,
like
but
so
they're not
activists,
followed.
we fought to have the laws in the books,
Yeah,
but they're not enforced. They're not followed.
we're in
right?
a fight right now with the Seabrooks-Washington bill to see to it that's properly implemented, because we fought like hell to get that. We don't want that to be another paper tiger, right?
And you
our
said
people
and
killed
can
in
you
mental
tell us
health.
what that Seabrooks bill is? You
Yeah,
mentioned the
mental
Seabrooks
health.
bill, but tell us what it is.
Najee Seabrooks and Drew Washington, Patterson and Jersey City, respectively, right? Both killed in mental health crises, right? And then in both instances, there were resources that should have been available, and they definitely were available in Najee's situation, because Najee actually worked in that particular
Right.
field, right? That were not allowed to be put in play just to give them the help that they would need, and they wound up getting killed. Right, and Victoria Lee is the most recent case that we have in Fort Lee. Another situation where just the way her situation was handled is just totally unwarranted, and there's no reason why that young woman was had her chest blown out with a water bottle in her hand. It's crazy stuff. So
she was shot twice in the chest.
Yes. So there's this bill that governor signed, right, and he signed the isolation. He signed this Isolation Solitary Confinement Act, and I think I got to check the language on that, several years ago, right before COVID, right? It's still not being implemented.
Oh wait, so there's a law on the books in New Jersey that you can't use solitary confinement?
There are guidelines. There are guidelines. Solitary confinement can be used, but there's medical evidence that says once you go past this threshold, you're torturing people.
Right.
And once you go past this threshold, you creating harm to people that can be irreparable. Right. So there are guidelines. The UN calls them the 88-hour rules, or the Mandela rules. That in real terms, it really shouldn't be any more than 88 hours. And on a day-to-day basis, it shouldn't be any more than 20 hours a day. Right, instead of just people, we've had folks who've been in prison in solitary confinement for decades at a time.
Right.
And I ain't just talking about political prisoners. Political prisoners define how that abuse played out, right? But decades at a time, you're in a hole, no human contact other than a tray, and what's put on that tray is a scared Frankenstein. Imagining that kind of situation for decades at a time, right? This is what Malcolm was talking about. He said America means prison, right? And so there's a whole conversation, that Jersey needs to have just to implement and honor its own law.
Wow.
Right, honor its own law. So we got to have him back. I have to figure out how to get them back. I don't know what happened to Tone. He was ready to go, and I think he just wanted to have some other folks who were involved in the development of the study to be on with him, and that's cool. That's cool. I just haven't heard from him, so I'm concerned. I just want to make sure he's all right. So I'll check back with him, and we'll have another segment on that.
Right? Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like when you're talking about it, right? It's one of those things that it's like I thought that they had outlawed a lot of that stuff a long time ago, but you're right. They can
Mhm.
outlaw it, right? They can say that you can only be treated a certain way because of it. And then there's the reality that even if you are treated a certain way, even if the law exists in the books, it's about that law being enforced. Now, what is the impediments of that law being enforced? Is it like there's not because the governor is the enforcer of the laws, right? That he's the executive, he's the enforcer of the laws, and the governor was put into office with the overwhelming majority of the black vote, right? And as a matter of fact, like I believe it was only 47% of white people actually voted for him. Ah, it was great. I was just getting ready to hit you up, man. I was like, where are you?
I got caught up in the mix. Sorry about that.
All right, man. Always good to have you, man. Always good to have you. This is Hakeem Green. He is Newark's official ambassador. Well, I don't know if it's official ambassador. It should be
It's
official.
official. It's
right?
official.
It should be
Yeah.
official.
All politics are local. It's official.
Newark's ambassador of hip hop, Hakeem Green. Um, he loves the city of Newark. He loves hip hop and anything that has to do with that in the city. Hakeem Green is on the front of that, right? If you into hip hop in Newark, and if you're into hip hop in this region, and you have not talked to Hakeem Green, then you have not talked to the person you need to speak to understand the culture and what needs to happen and go on. So that is, and that is just true. That is just true.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So man, oh wow, I'm getting a lot of feedback. So I think that Hakeem, is there like something else going on in the background of yours that's on sound or
No.
no?
I just muted. I think that helped a little bit. Go ahead.
Okay, so I was just talking about the incarceration and solitary confinement. I know we're going to finish up on that, and then we're going to talk about hip hop and what's going on and what some of the you've been on a lot of places, man. You've been traveling a lot. You've got your own podcast now, so we're going to have to talk about a lot of that real soon too.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let me ask you this, Hakeem. You in Florida now?
Yeah.
How did Hurricane Helene hit down there where you at?
Well, I'm in South Florida, more towards the East Coast. Helene went up the West Coast, up through the Gulf. South of Tampa got hit kind of hard, I hear. And it, Florida fared pretty well. Luckily, prayers to people in North Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina. I hear they got hit pretty bad. So, but Florida, damage. There was a lot of flooding on the West Coast, which usually happens when severe hurricanes hit. But Miami, South Florida as a state, they've experienced some pretty horrible hurricanes in the past. Luckily, this wasn't one of them.
Well, I'm happy about that. I just been seeing all the stuff that's going on in North Carolina, and they're talking about like climate change was hitting a little different because they weren't expecting to get hit on the inlands because normally they get tropical storms. They don't get hit, right? They don't get flooded like that, right? And so they're thinking a lot of times these shifts and changes that get so drastic that are wiping out towns. That this is attributable to climate change as well, and it tracks, right? These are things that have been predicted.
Yeah, they say like 200-300 miles away from the coast. You expect people to the coast to get hit, and it's like, nah, for some reason, whatever it was, the inland areas got hit worse. Well, it's kind of hard to predict. A lot of conspiracy theories floating around out there, and I can't call it. I'm not going to try to call it, but all we're going to do is say, send our prayers to those folks and any relief that we can give these people. Please find it in your heart and in your pockets to send some money that way, you know.
Now, okay, man, you've been doing a lot of interviews. Tell us what's going on, what's going up, because like you're, is it just me, or are you a lot more places now this year than you were last year? Like just in a lot of different media, are people starting to remember and recognize what you did, who you are, all that other stuff now?
Yeah, to some degree, you know, I'm pushing the issue a little bit more than I have in the past. 24 Hours of Peace being such the success that it's become, you know, people are interested in, you know, how we got to where we are and what it took. And then, you know, I have a few music projects that I'm working, which have the ears of some folks. The Aubrey album, produced by Ron Lawrence, featuring Carl Thomas, KRS-One, Freeway, CeeLo Green, Amir Baraka Jr., Do It All Kelly, G. Simone, Malik Youssef.
Mitty in that?
Yeah, Mitty's on there on Real Hip Hop for the People.
Ah,
yeah, Real Hip Hop for the People. You know, that particular song, we have a video for it that's up. We shot at 24 Hours of Peace 2022. And, you know, 24 Hours of Peace, you know, being born from the true ethos of hip hop culture, peace, love, unity, safely, having fun. You know, we captured it to express what real hip hop is, and it's always for the people. So with Chief of Staff, the Honorable Mayor Ras Baraka on a verse, Do It All Kelly, West Ward Councilman on a verse, G. Simone on the hook, who's the wife of KRS-One, and of course Ron Lawrence on the production, your boy Hakeem Green setting it off. We represent what real hip hop is all about. Don't get it twisted. Always staying tried and true to the real hip hop for the people. That's off the Aubrey album. I need to go cop that. Get that.
Absolutely.
Don't take that. Get that. Get that.
and there's a big difference too.
Big difference, you know.
Absolutely.
We'll be over here, boy. Cocoa butt only.
All right, so I just got a message from Rhino, and Rhino was like, he says, please direct him in the direction of speaking on Rich Homie Quan's death and the trend of these young rappers dying from drug suicide, unintentional or not. And like, so I know just to get real somber right into it, but I figure it's
real out there.
No time, right? Like, so shout out to DJ Rhino. Shout out to DJ Rhino.
So I got this other song that I did on the Aubrey album called Stolen Art. And I used the sample Time Will Reveal by DeBarge.
Right.
Stolen Art explains how they take our culture from us. We exchange it for drugs.
Oh.
That's basically what the song is saying. That they push drug culture on us, and then we get lost in the sauce. And of course, I did it over Time Will Reveal, because time reveals all things, ladies and gentlemen. And we know that the DeBarge family had a serious bout with drug addiction and how it kind of destroyed, you know, their family and their movement and their success. So there's a lot of layers to that song, Stolen Art, circling back around to Rich Homie Quan and his death by drug overdose, fentanyl. System, you know, and so, you know, the powers that be would like us to think that hip hop is, you know, street gangster out there selling drugs, pimping our women, you know, all these traumatic experiences that we have to go through that we promote as something positive. We traumatize ourselves, and then we look to kind of numb ourselves through drug culture. And, you know, I'm the guy, all we do is spark madism.
Right.
Weed is not a drug, it's a herb. Like, you not a thug, you a herb. Anyway, that's a whole nother part. But anything that you do it in moderation. You know, let's be careful, let's be smart, you know, but the way drug culture is pushed on us, you know, it's like, you know, you ain't keeping it real if you're not in the drug world, whether you're a user, a seller, you know. And if we want to save our communities, we have to address drug addiction. You know, like there's a comment, they did this, they did that. And we have to stop blaming the enemy. Like, it's not the enemy's fault if you lose. When you're in competition, the enemy, and we know it's the enemy, is going to use every tool in the tool book, you know what I mean, every trick to get you off your game. And, you know, the one consistent trick that they've used is drugs, you know. And sometimes the drugs could be over the counter. It could be illegal drugs.
That's right.
You know, we have to be careful and, you know, be smart. Moderation is key. Saying no is the most powerful word in the English language, ladies and gentlemen. No. Why? Because we have enough examples from Billie Holiday all the way on down of what drugs could do to our leaders and our thought leaders, our cultural leaders, you know. So, you know, I hope you're gonna play this.
That I don't know if I can play it in terms of the samples and stuff. Well, like, okay, cool. So the all right.
Something out of nothing, the culture grew from breaks. Feed boys with fat laces, helping DJs carry crates. 12 inches with the name covered up, 45 black with tape. Needle dropping on the get down part on the one, never late. Moonwalk look like skates, time is infinite like the 8. Built to destroy the devil's world, God body at the gate. In God we trust, the dollars we lust, catching crumbs off the cake. Now we bop to a beat on walls of concrete in Northern State. It was 88, we was victims of a scheme. It was all just a dream, but now my homie is a fiend. We live for the culture, but we kill for the cream. Trying to make the street light up, stay on your toes, Billie Jean.
How can you justify what you've taken culturally? You love to lie, to hide the truth. Do you really think you're me? Think you're me? Think you're me? Think you're me?
It's like hip to the hibbit, flow liquid like exhibit. It'll create the culture with every breath as I live it. They try to prohibit, but I'm the master of the pivot. No gimmicks on point like a digit. I'm like Malcolm, ready to rock it. Get your hand out my pocket. Everybody the gatekeeper, but y'all forgot to lock it. Swear by culture freedom, I got more rights than Substance Crockett. Now my boy Elroy, out in space like space's rockets. Truth be told, we was crushed from the cold. Niggas getting high off the dust from Sugar Hill. Now the truth gets sold with strippers on the pole. The light, just with rappers for the thrill. Get the rush from off one pill with flashes on the wheels. Singing white lines with my brothers and folding bills. Slinging white dimes when Uncle Joe wrote that bill. Around 94, fucking around with Hillary and Bill.
How can you justify what you've taken culturally? You love to lie, to hide the truth. Do you really think you're me? Think you're me? Think you're me? Think you're
It was go and tell. Now y'all go and tell. Hop on the gram, look, show and tell. No ethics and no codes, just cut the pie a la mode. Spinning red whites now lights the block like a strobe. Behold, the pale horse that he rode. Here to bring death with guns to unload. Conspiracy to conspire, there's a theory on the wire when Cohen is a priest whose doctrine is the liar. Here to rob the hood, I keep it tucked like the friar. Grew into a man following rappers I admire. No more b-boys in the cypher, no more DJs catching breaks. And everybody in the trap with 45s wrapped in tape. The culture has been raped, pimped out, and straight flooded. Just like the Bronx in the 70s, everything gutted. Trusted, rusted, busted and disgusted. We should have shut it down when Chuck said not to trust it.
How can you justify what you've taken culturally? You love to lie, to hide the truth. Do you really think you're me? think you're me. Think you're me. Think you're, oh yeah. Think that you can do what I think that you can do what I do. You think that you can do what I do. You think that you can do what I do. Tell me, do you think you're me? Tell me, do you think you're me? You know you ain't me.
Wow.
Big shout out to the
All
homie
right, so
Thomas on the hook.
and big shout out to you, brother. Like that was nice. That was real nice, right?
Actually,
Like,
I mean, that's the greatest song
Most people
in hip hop since The Message. It's the most important song since The Message. Trust me.
all right,
We need
all
it.
right. Well, I mean, like you laughing, but I'm just saying, right? Like, a lot of people aren't really talking about this honestly, right? They're not talking about like the levels in which um, there's so much that has just been racked within our communities, like through the music, not just to the musicians, but to the people who listen to it, the community itself, right? That how drugs gets infused, and I noticed not like it seems like there was like the generation that was just like the glorification of the selling of drugs, and now you had a generation of the glorification of taking of drugs, right? And it seemed like there was a switch, right? None of it's good, but there comes to be some other differences when you have like multiple rappers dying of overdoses, right? Like and addiction and how it becomes pervasive within the culture, right? Like now, right? So the extent to which people are getting addicted, the levels in which people are getting addicted to things that are much harder. And there was because of crack, there was an entire generation of hip hop that just did weed, right? It was like weed, right? Because everything was crack, right? Like people weren't brothers and sisters weren't messing with harder drugs like from like the 90s until like the 2000s. It was weed, right? The high school before you got to it seemed like kids when they went to college they were surprised by like all the white folks who did really hard drugs, right? So the hard drugs were done by white people, right? Like so when the initial hard drugs and came about, that was like whether it be the crystal meth and stuff like that hit devastated white communities real bad. In the hood, we were just smoking weed.
Yeah.
But now that's changed, right? Like people are talking about fentanyl, like just like powering through our communities right now.
Yeah. Well, my mom did a great job in, detailing what drugs will do to you. She came up in the 60s, in the 50s and the 60s. So she experienced the heroin craze in the late 60s and the 70s. And a lot of the friends that she had in junior high school and high school who were strung out. So walking from Arlington Avenue over to Main Street, walk up Main Street, we get to Center Street in Orange, and she would see, people she grew up with on lean. It'd be 2:30 in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they'd be leaning all the way down. And she would point out, she said, Hakeem, you see that person right there? I went to high school with them. That's what happens when you take drugs. You don't ever want to take drugs because you can end up just like that. And
we used to they used to be our entertainment. We used to get high to watch the junkies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yep.
Fall
and
apart.
That desensitizes you as a young person growing up. It becomes a natural part of your environment, seeing drug addicts and alcoholics, and it kind of sets the ceiling on what you think of yourself and what's available to you. You think that the end of the road is drug culture. I'm either gonna be a seller, a user, or I'm gonna sell till I use, I'm gonna be pimping these hoes, I'm gonna be, hustling, I'm gonna be like, that's kind of like the limitation of
that was my pivot.
Yeah. The limitation.
You look at it, you make a choice.
Right. So when crack hit in 84, 85, and I watched, like my closest friends and family get involved in the crack game, it was like, man, nah, I'm going that way. Y'all could do that. I'm over here. Thank God for sports and athletics and being able to go to summer camp every summer to get me kind of out of that environment. But, for some reason, I just saw more of myself and knew that I didn't have to be a victim to the previous generation. And then when you do the knowledge on, the Nixon administration and why we stayed in Vietnam because of the heroin trade, the war on drugs was really a war with drugs and mass incarceration, prison industrial complex, going back to Nixon and the smashing down of the Black Panther Party and, our communities and civil rights, trying to, gain some footing in this beast and how they disabled us once again through drug culture and then, crack cocaine with Reaganomics and Bush. And you see that, like getting that education early on, navigating through the 90s. I knew what my cause was and my purpose was, just, in terms of who I was as Hakeem Green, the person, and how I was going to use my music to elevate and reach people and kind of fight against drug culture. Like say no to drugs sounds so corny and cliche, but it's really that simple. We have to to it because it's not the war on drugs, it's a war with drugs. Drug culture and law enforcement come hand in hand. They talk about snitching. No, I got a song. I go, it's New York rap. I said, they're talking about you talk about snitching. You deal for the cops, like about snitching. You deal with you like why do you think drugs is on the block? Who do you think put the drugs there? Law enforcement
gave the green light. That's right.
Yeah, that gives them the reason to crack down. That gives them the reason for overtime hours. That keeps their budgets high. They need us strung out. They need a reason to come, TNT and task force, what do you call it? Racial profiling and stop and frisk. All those things come with drug culture. So if we out here peddling drugs, you are the enemy, my man. Right. You're the enemy.
One of the missions
on another level, but it's like there's levels to it. And the first level is the pawns that are out here selling the drugs. And then that gives reason for law enforcement to bang on all of us, not just the drug dealer, but now the entire community becomes,
and we're doing it to keep you safe. Right. We're doing it to keep you safe.
I got this other joint called Y'all Niggas.
Yes.
What's wrong with the black community? Y'all niggas. What's wrong with hip hop?
Y'all niggas. That's right.
Y'all niggas. and the whole thing is like, so y'all niggas goes deeper into how they use drugs to keep us under lock and key. Y'all got to peep that. Go to YouTube, Hakeem Green. Y'all niggas.
Yeah. I definitely blasted that out several times. That was thinking about this. Today is the anniversary of the birthday of Imam Jamil Al-Amin, 81 years on his, and still very much in prison. We got to deal with that. One of the missions of the Black Liberation Army was combating the influx of drugs in our community.
Yeah.
Well, people, we weren't just banging with the state, and police violence. We were bringing in how they were trafficking that mess into our community because they saw how that was taking us off what we were doing on the streets to change the game for Black liberation.
Amen. When I got put on to the Battle of Algiers, right, and in order to really wage
classic PE tool,
French, you had to clean up us. You had to get rid of the drug dealers, the pimps, the pushers, the alcoholics, the people who were weak, the people who had these habits, because we could always catch you up by finding out what's your habit, P. Diddy. What's your weakness? What you like?
Wow, did you just say what I think you said?
Stop the movement.
You heard it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that goes back to what we talked about
earlier. Yes.
Right. And we talked about it a little earlier in terms of just
let me just preface this. It starts off with the scene in The Godfather when they're talking about
Sell it to the niggas. They're animals anyway.
Animals anyway. They ain't got no soul.
Now we have permission to play this?
Yeah. Go ahead. Rock out. We good.
We need to do this more often.
Absolutely.
I also don't believe in drugs. For years, I paid my people extra so they wouldn't do that kind of business. My city will keep the traffic in the dark, people to call it. They're animals anyway, so let them lose their soul.
Y'all niggas ain't fresh. Y'all niggas will get laid to rest. Y'all niggas hold the game back. We them real niggas that bring that real shit back. Now check it. Y'all niggas ain't fresh. Y'all niggas will get laid to rest. Y'all niggas hold the game back. We them real niggas that bring that real shit back. Yeah. Sit back, take note, you can quote. Bite my shit, I hope y'all niggas choke. You could tell the pigs this shit stops today. My life the color black cause the sky commodity gray. Tricks are for kids, warriors come out to play. MCs stay riffing while the hood is in decay. You ain't a man, my nigga, you a boy. Getting passed around the cipher, my nigga, you a toy. Your whole style employ, real niggas love it black. So I spit the real McCoy when it's time to touch the track. Troops get deployed when it's time to go and attack, y'all. Like Chips Ahoy with a box of Cracker Jacks. I stay dropping facts, ready to shoot like it's craps. But I'm here to bring peace to streets, salute like it's taps. I stay right and exact the latter. Matter of fact, I put bombs in your mouth, I stick yourself like a Mac. Y'all niggas ain't fresh. Y'all niggas will get laid to rest. Y'all niggas hold the game back. We them real niggas that bring that real shit back. Now check it. Y'all niggas ain't fresh. Y'all niggas will get laid to rest. Y'all niggas hold the game back. We them real niggas that bring that real shit back. Yeah, I wanna uplift the block, y'all niggas stick to pimpin'. I love to salute my brothers, y'all niggas stick to dissing. Pitching, that shit, that scratch the itching. Serve the bad batch, my nigga, why what you sniffing? When they want the white, I sit it out like Scottie Pippen. Nigga want the candy just to end up like a victim. But of every song I sing, y'all niggas need to listen. How to say it with conviction, y'all niggas just be snitching. Get it? Conviction got the whole hood convicted. The hood is gentrified, black families get evicted. CBS got Percocets, everybody stay addicted. Y'all niggas keep us locked down like the blockchain is encrypted, restricted. Everybody movement is constricted. Now the block is like a prison, slavery self-inflicted. We used to break rocks, now y'all niggas just cook it in the kitchen. The prison industrial complex orchestrated by Richard Nixon. Y'all niggas ain't fresh. Y'all niggas will get laid to rest. Y'all niggas hold the game back. We them real niggas that bring that real shit back. Now check it. Y'all niggas ain't fresh. Y'all niggas will get laid to rest. Y'all niggas hold the game back. We them real niggas that bring that real shit back. Yeah.
Ah, yeah, boy. And you don't stop.
Nice.
You know, you saw the clips from the Mac, right?
Hell
Right,
yeah.
right. And from Boys in the Hood.
Hell
Mac,
yeah.
Goldie was weak. He was the weak part of the community. He was the one who was keeping the oppression going.
That's right.
You know, it took him a while to wake up. Eventually, he had to lose his mom in the battle. He finally snapped up out of it, but you know, had to turn to black liberation and get it right.
And that's what you've been saying for a long time, right? Like you have consistently, even on this program, said that even when you were being offered deals when you were younger, you were being offered deals, and people would be like, well, you know, you need to, you know, be a little more violence, a little more drugs, right? Like talk about that drug stuff a little more, right? And you know, it's just the way in which our music, our culture, our art just gets, you know, commodified, packaged by white people and sold to black people. It's like black people bring it in, it gets repackaged, commodified, scrubbed down, taking, you know, the positive nutrients out of it and giving it back to us like it's ours now, right? With full of vile self-hatred and destruction stuff for our community.
They commodify the stereotype. They create a stereotype, And then everybody has to fit in that box, or you don't get heard, you don't get seen, you don't get a platform. And then, the generation after us thinks that that's all there is. Like it's a repetitive cycle where, we talked about earlier, just what you see in the community, you think that's the limitation of your progress is. All I can be is a pimp, a hustler, a pimp, prostitute. Like that's it. That's what's waiting for me. Now I remember being a school teacher and trying to encourage, one particular young brother to get his thing right. And he straight out said to me at 12 years old, Hakeem, my father went to jail for all my brothers went to jail for Like, I know where I'm going. I know what my path is.
Wow.
He was 12 years old, 13. He had already, pretty much given up. Hard body. It's funny because I saw him a couple weeks ago. And I believe, he's done some time. He looked good though. I saw him a couple weeks ago at the Naughty by Nature celebration at Oval Park in East Orange. And I saw the brother and he looked good. He looked strong. He looked like he had his head on right, looked focused. So I'm wishing him the best. But, unfortunately, too many of us have to go backward before we can go forward. But as long as we go forward, hey, man, whatever it takes to, get us in the right direction.
But it seems like this generation after generation thing, right? Like you're talking about in the 70s, it was, it was heroin. In the 80s and in the early 90s, it was crack. There was a time. There was a time in the late 90s and the 2000s when we had so much of crack. Like the younger generation was like, no, shit, I ain't doing no crack, right? And the drug of choice was weed. People might drink, but it was never going to be like heroin. It was never going to be like crack. And then, and for years, methamphetamines, Oxycontin, that was the suburbs. Those were the drugs that, kids wouldn't see until they got to college they went to a predominantly white college. They see the harder drugs, but they weren't when they went back home, right? But now there's really an influx of it seems like varying levels of highly addictive, highly deadly, right? Because not even sometimes people die of the addiction. They just die straight up, right? In terms of the ingestion of the drug that kills them, right? So there's that.
Add something on because, too many of us have addictions and it's not always cocaine. It's not always crack. It's not always weed and alcohol. They really get us early.
Even though weed is not addictive. I mean, it just not that I would know, but it is not supposed to be chemically addictive.
It's right. You're not like physically addicted, but there is a habit forming element to smoking weed, right? And I guess I don't smoke nearly as much as I used to. I work out. It's like you replace the bad habits with good habits, right? So now, my habits are drink plenty of water, eat right. I'm in the gym every day. I guess I take some pre-workout, which has caffeine in it, but I get that adrenaline rush, and then the working out, the doing the cardio, the stretching. The high from working out to me is and it clears my mind. I can function.
Natural endorphins.
Oh my God, natural endorphins, right? Dopamine gets released by the brain when you feel good, when you're doing things that make you feel good, your brain naturally releases dopamines, and you can feel it. So
I gotta ask this. I gotta ask this question to you because the way you're talking right now, right? I know there's a particular history with you and weed, and or what you're saying right now is that weed is no longer a thing. It's no longer a lifestyle.
I still smoke when I'm being creative, when I want to perform. It puts me in a certain vibe where I'm able to creatively do my thing. When I'm not smoking and I'm performing, I overthink. I'm not feeling, I'm thinking. And then that's not good for really executing. But the point that I was looking to make was that sugar is a drug.
Dangerous.
Right. And
that was my weakness.
Coming from, poverty, coming from not being able to have 3 square meals of naturally organic not getting the proper nutrition. So you're getting tired because you're not properly, putting nutrients in your body. You're you're burning these nutrients, and you need a quick fix. So you turn to sugar,
right?
Be it chocolate, be it
cereals.
Cereal. You wake up in the morning, you're eating cereal. You're putting sugar on the sugar. You're playing all day. You go to the corner store, you're getting quarter waters, Mike and Ike's and lemon heads and now leaders and jawbreakers, and you getting a straight crackhead rush off of sugar. It's readily available. All the kids are. Then you're drinking soda, more sugar, and then you finally go home to get dinner. You're eating spaghetti, sugar, rice, sugar, potatoes, sugar, because you're eating cheap foods. You're eating things that aren't
going up on them carbs, right?
Yeah, it's not really food. It's a non-food that you're just using to fill your stomach, but it turns into sugar in the body, and now you're addicted to sugar. And then when you can't get the sugar rush and there's drugs available, you're still looking for that high, and you replace the sugar high with these other highs. So they start us off early in the hood.
There was a movie, I think it was a miniseries, that one of the subplots of the miniseries is that they were about to unleash this poison on the hood. Like, it was going to be chemical warfare. They would release this poison on the hood, right? They were the white supremacists who were having their own way of getting to the hood, right? And so the big plot is that they released it to the hood and they advertised it on Saturday morning shows because it was corn syrup. They put in everything, right? So it was corn syrup that they, so it was like the secret weapon to kill black people.
Corn syrup. So I'm going through issues with my diet, right? And it's like I'm so sensitive to it now that it immediately happens when I eat the wrong thing. If I eat high fructose corn syrup, my hands cramp up. I feel it in my joints. Bad. Like, there's been times when I've had an attack and I'm literally, in the bathroom sink with my hands in the hot water, crying, tears coming out of my eyes.
Wow.
Because it feels like there's like a boa constrictor on my hands and on my arm. Just the vice is just, right? And it's high fructose corn syrup. It's processed foods. It's, all these things that we've eaten our entire lives that cause arthritis, causes diabetes, causes what's the condition where people's ankles swell up? So many of our gout.
Right.
And it's the sugar. Sugar is a drug. So it weakens the bone. It deteriorates the bones, right? So, we got folks in their 40s and their 50s moving around like they 70 and 80. Like, it ages our community so quickly, and it's the sugar. Sugar is a drug. White sugar especially is a drug. Like, get the white sugar out your diet. Definitely get high fructose corn syrup out your diet. It's a drug.
No, it's my stuff.
Yeah. And then, when you think of the pain that I'm in, right? Now,
it triggers inflammation.
It triggers inflammation. Right. People who don't have the knowledge I have turn to painkillers, the Percocets, the other over-the-counter pain medications, walking around doped up, trying to deal with pain. Don't know where the pain's coming from. Don't know why they're in pain. Because it's the food.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Right. It's our intake. It's our intake. Right.
Yeah, it's oppression of our people. The lack of quality food, nutrition, it's killing us.
Oh, you're right. Right, man. And I know that we have done shows on that. We're going to be doing more, right, man? But thank you very much for coming out, right? Because we always love having you on the show, right? You got a standing invite, right? Like, whenever I send out the links for the show, I send them to you because I'm like, you got a standing invite to come on when you want, right? Like, because we appreciate you. We appreciate having you. Newark ambassador to hip hop.
Yeah, I need you to play. I need people to hear these joints so I can
make
noise.
Well, Well, that's awesome. We will play. We will feel more obliged. We have your permission to play them.
Yeah.
So that means that the companies, the corporations, won't come down and try to snatch our little show off.
Oh my! So it's all good.
Okay, good, man. Good. That's good. We got to do this more. We actually have to do this more. We talked to DJ Rhino, and we got to get more music back in the
100%.
show. So I mean, that is excellent. So we appreciate that a lot. So we want to thank all our guests for coming out to this today. Thank you to Eric Payne for coming for doing the Payne Report with us. Thank you to Rahaman Muhammad for coming on and giving us that schooling education on both unions and the specific ways in which policies function toward Black men, right? Like stuff I did not know, right? Like so they broke that down well, all right. And thank also our guests who really broke down what
Leila.
Yes, and she broke down
Leila Wills.
Yeah, Leila Wills, and she broke down that term landmarking the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party. So Leila Wills, thank you, right, for breaking that down for us and breaking that term and what they do and the history, breaking down all that history. So Leila Wills, thank you very much. And of course, Hakeem Green, thank you for coming on and you educating us the way you did too. I appreciate that. Having all y'all on. Zaid, you got more announcements?
Tomorrow will be the final day of the 16th annual Black Panther Film Festival. 4 o'clock and 7 o'clock are the last two showings at the Maisley Film Center on Malcolm X Boulevard and 126th Street. I'm forgetting something. Straight up, I'm forgetting. Oh, tomorrow. Curb Fest, Sunday, 12 o'clock, Philly. Right, that's the last installment of Curbs Fest for this season, too. That's another push for our political prisoners. And there is a teach-in tomorrow also on the letter writing campaign for the Uhuru 3 at 12 o'clock. I'm gonna try and put all that stuff on the page in a minute.
And shout out to Science Park High School. The 50th anniversary of Science Park High School
50
is
wow.
tomorrow. 50.
Okay.
Yes, the school is 50 years old. So happy anniversary to Science Park High School. And there's a program tomorrow starting at 12 noon. You are welcome to come in. There'll be see the school. It's a beautiful new building. It'll come a long way from the top floor of the old Central High School. Back in 1974, it was literally like a school within a school. It was the top floor of Central High School way back then, and then after a year, it was in a building that was owned by Rutgers, right? And it was a former beer brewery. It was a Ballantine Beer Brewery on 40 Rector Street, and we were in that building from 1976 all the way into 2006, right? And now we have a new building on 260 Norfolk Street, brand new, state-of-the-art, beautiful building. When kids walked into that building, because they had come from a building on 40 Rector Street, which ended up being condemned after a while. It's a historic building. Shaquille O'Neal bought it. He built a new plush high-rise there, but it has the facade of the old Science High School, right? It still has the facade of the old Science High School because it was a historic building, right? But the new school, kids walked into that school and they started crying. It was like Oprah, everybody gets to school, right? So it was a powerful moment when people walked in 2006. But the 50th anniversary is tomorrow. There are a lot of Science High alumni. There are a lot of Science High debate alumni. So come on out, see the school, and celebrate year 50 of Science Park High School. The new building is the first new school building built in Newark in over 40 years. It came as a result of fights, legislative fights, and court fights to sue the state for not building new school buildings in Newark. They built Science Park High School, they built Central High School, and then they started building a series of others again after a lot of fights. So shout out for all the politicians who fought behind the scenes, not for themselves, but for the creation of new schools in Newark, which is happening even now, right? There's a lot of history of that too. So So big shout outs for that. Zaid, do you remember what you were gonna? Anything
No,
else?
that's it. That's it.
All right, Hakeem, what do we need to shout out? Anything you want to shout out? Any things coming up?
Vote, 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 vote blue, straight down the line.
All right.
Politics local. Vote, vote, vote.
I agree with that, especially now. I agree with that. Vote. November is coming. Vote, vote, vote. 100%.
Early mailing ballots. Do it. Vote. Don't
vote.
front.
Give money.
We'll have some
Volunteer to call
talks
people.
in a minute too.
Just go to Pennsylvania. Volunteer there, right? Driving distance, but that's going to be, oh my God.
I got police blazing in Maryland. That's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right, exactly.
We need resources on the ground. We need to have our people in place from the federal level all the way down to the local level. And then once you vote, put your foot in these local politicians' behind and make sure your money is spent the way you need it spent.
Yep. Amen. Amen. All right, so that's another week on All Politics are Local, America's number one political hip hop streaming show, and we will. Until next week, be safe and talk to you soon.
And you don't stop.